Turn up your volume, Lewis, maybe.
All right. How are you all
Yeah, I
doing today?
got my microphone is very, very close, so maybe I'll just put it a little,
Oh, one sec. Let me.
further away from me.
No, I think I had. One sec here. You know, yeah. Say something.
Something.
Okay, yeah, because I had a compressor on because I think the last time I did this it was very soft. But yeah, now you can put the mic closer to you and you should be fine. It's not gonna
Oh, okay.
distort the shit out of you. Because yeah, this automatically normalizes you, whereas Google Hangouts doesn't.
Oh,
So
I
I
think
had
you ended the
normalized you.
stream though.
Oh yeah, it's back. No, I hit a button.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Google Hangouts doesn't normalize things, whereas this Google Duo shit does. So now I can turn that off, which is great. Okay.
All right. I gotta now figure out how to get back to whatever the. Okay. All right. Good. Now the like brigade begins. Take two.
All right.
Yeah, this is a real rough draft because it's like when I do my live stream, the production company uses StreamYard. So, you're able to get you're able to get all the things that you need to get done rather easily.
One of us is a professional content creator, is what he's saying, and the other is.
No, one of us works for a professional content creator. I'm just a fucking talking head. That's what I am.
I remember
Um,
telling you a while ago that I saw this ad in the subway, and it had this guy that just kind of looked like Regis Philbin, and next to his head said "compensated spokesperson," and I just thought to myself, like, of all the jobs to have, how do you think he deals with his workplace stress? Like compensated spokesperson. What do you think a difficult day is in the job of a compensated spokesperson? These ads are all over the subway. So if you take the train, at some point you've seen this one guy advertising for this law firm, and right next to him it says compensated spokesperson with his name.
mhm. I would say he gets his dick sucked a lot.
Probably. That's probably the compensation.
That's a great stress reliever. So yeah, let's just call that what it is. So yeah, it's good to be back in front of your adoring fans. I want to send a shout out to every single one of y'all because a lot of times I have conversations with Mr. Rossman, and sometimes he'll be a little bit down. Lewis will be like, "Well, this person said I'm an asshole. I'm this horrible person." I'm like, "Yo, you can't ignore all of these people that support you, video in, video out, stream in, stream out." So I just wanted to uh, say thank you to you guys because I think that without you, the viewer, I think Lewis's life is very, very different. I don't know if his business is quite the same. I don't know if the right to repair movement is quite the same without you people. So, even though you guys don't know a goddamn thing about sports, I still love you anyway.
I don't know a thing about sports.
It's all good. Everybody's got different sets of interest, and that's the spice of life. Um, and I appreciate it. So what type? I love it when people say sports ball.
What
I
type of
love that
sports
shit.
ball? What is a sports ball?
Oh man, yeah, you're having too much fun. I just got to make sure that the I can see what's going on for the Twitch. All right, so the lady just gave me the login. Yeah, so you asked me earlier, some of the crazy things. Yeah, hockey is over. I think the Lightning won the championship. One of my stream watchers is a Dallas Stars fan, so he was very sad. Um, you know, boo. Isn't this the guy who the trainer?
Yes.
Uh, yeah. Chat. Who is this guy? I just joined. It's crazy. Like I've been on your channel like what 5 times? 5 times already.
Yes, he is the one that on the main channel had the video about my short-lived dating experience from my gym.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That was
Yeah.
fun. I remember
Yeah.
thinking to myself, like, don't upload this video. Don't
Oh,
upload this video. And then I get
want
home, and
this
then
is
Erica's...
just chatting. Maybe you have to change the because I think people were looking for Dota.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I never changed that. I suck. Yeah, I just got it. Edit that.
Yeah, we can't be disappointing to people. They came here to see Defense of the Ancients,
Yeah, I
and
remember
you're
like,
giving
thinking...
them
You know what's
some
funny
Black
about...
Lives Matter bullshit.
You know what was funny about that stream is... Thank you,
It's
do
not
it live.
bullshit. I just said that to be inflammatory.
He lied.
So sue me.
He says things to be offensive on purpose. No, I
Yeah.
thought to myself, like, you can't upload this. Just don't upload this. Don't upload this. And I played it for Erica, and I said, what do you think? And she keeps laughing and laughing, and she's just pointing up, like, saying, upload it. And then I upload it, and then someone says, this is offensive to women. And then I ask Erica, is this... And then, like, before I can finish the sentence, she says, no, fuck that. This is hysterical.
Yep. You know what it is? Her behavior was offensive to women because the only thing that I did was say what she did.
She said,
So-
Erica said this would be offensive to a certain type of woman, but not this would be offensive to...
those certain types of women either are not watching, or if they are watching, fuck them. You know? I mean, if you told them to go fuck themselves, you know, they're very skilled at that anyway. They're very experienced.
You
when
guys
it-
should
when
do
it
a
comes to
stream in the
fucking
gym
themselves.
while working out. That's going to be a while. That's going to be a while. Right now in New York City gyms, you have to wear a mask. You have to be very far away. I don't think you're allowed to do cardio. There's a bunch of restrictions, and I don't see myself going back to a gym under those restrictions anytime soon.
Yeah, I gotta add to that, Lewis. So today, I know this might shock some people, because of how much of an introvert and people hater that I come off as. Because it's legit. Like, I don't really like people that much. Today is the first time I went inside an establishment of any kind since March 16th. I've been, like avoiding going into stores. I just didn't want to wear a fucking mask, so I didn't go into any place. But today I had to take my vehicle in for scheduled maintenance, and I could not avoid it. And, the New York City inspection moratorium was about to end. And, there are a couple of lady friends, let's just say, that are interested in hanging out. So I had to get the car serviced. So I had to go inside of an establishment. I had to go inside the Mercedes dealership in Manhattan. So I had to put on the goddamn mask. And I was just like, fuck this. This is horrible. I go up to the desk and I go to talk to the woman, and I'm like tempted to like go around the plexiglass, because it's like I'm here to deal with a human being, and there's like these plexiglass fucking things up, and I'm like, I can't deal with this. I want to go back to regular fucking human life. So when it comes to the gym, I'm not going back until they've got this Rona shit sorted out, because to tell people they can't do their cardio beforehand, and you can't use the water fountain, and you can't wait for your next client, because it's different for somebody like Lewis. For Lewis, he has a scheduled time to be there. He gets in, he takes a shower, he leaves. But what about the goddamn trainer? What if I have a 6 a.m. client and an 11 a.m. client, and the gym says, well, to keep the Rona down, you can't be in the building. What the fuck am I supposed to do from 8 in the morning to 11 in the morning? Am I supposed to drive home and then immediately jump back in the car to drive? Fuck out of here. I'm not doing all that weird shit. This is not real life, people. This is not real life. So if they're going to be doing all of these weird things, then that means that we're not safe yet. So fuck it. Like, I'll do my sessions via, Skype. I even have a client that I use this Google Duo with. So fuck out of here with that. Yeah, plexiglass everything.
I wound up finding...
I understand the importance of it. I just fucking hate it. That's the difference between me and some of these people that are like, oh, my freedoms. I'm not gonna. No, I understand the importance of it, but it's so fucking uncomfortable. I'd rather just stay in my goddamn house.
I wound up just buying a bunch. I've been putting this off for like 15 years, and I've been talking to you about this recently, which is there are certain behaviors that people have that they don't wind up changing because they just keep doing what they did yesterday. Like, I think people would spend $1 a day for the rest of their lives on something if they could get around it by spending $100 tomorrow in an hour of time. But if I could just spend $1 today in 5 minutes, I just won't do it. And I've been saying since high school I want to get a gym once I have my own place. And once I was like 19, I had my own place, and 12 years later, I still was going to the gym and going, oh crap, am I getting there before they close, or am I getting there too early or too late, or am I wearing what I'm supposed to? And like or am I going to be able to work on this, or do I have to wait 20 minutes for someone else to finish? I just never put the time together to sit down and buy all the stuff that I needed. And I did that because once I saw the opening guidelines, I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm not doing this. And I finding some stuff that was used and, sprayed it down quite a bit and buying it. And I can't imagine myself actually going back to a gym. Like, it's hard for me to recognize the idea that, because right now I'm done working. The moment I'm done working, I walk outside. I can do my squat, I can do my bench press, I can do what I want, I clean, I wipe it off, and then I go home, and it's so convenient. And like I know you've mentioned that part of the workout is the mental discipline. It's the mental discipline of actually making the time to go to the gym. Saying, I'm going to wake up at this time, I'm going to leave what I'm doing and go to the gym. And I completely get that. At the same time, maybe I'm just being a lazy bum. There's something really nice about, I'm about to leave the office, but before I leave the office, let me spend 40 minutes lifting and then go home. And like, I wonder how many people have done that over the past 6 months, because now they were forced to.
A lot of people. One of my stream viewers on Twitch for my gaming channel, he works for Rogue. And for people who don't know Rogue is like the preeminent supplier of all kinds of fitness related equipment, barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, squat racks, deadlift platforms, you name it, Rogue makes it. And he was telling me that they had like a lot of backups. Like I went to send some of my clients to buy a couple of kettlebells, and they're like, yo, they don't have any, they're all on back order. So a lot of people are figuring out. But for me, I guess, even though like I'm on the antisocial side of the social spectrum, I feel like fitness is a social activity. So there is a lot that's lost when you're just in there by yourself. You can't look over and see, a beautiful heart-shaped ass that's being worked on that, gets
It gets you in trouble.
Gets those baser instincts going. There aren't other people to provide inspiration like that. So it's just not the same, it's not the same. But somebody was asking about how my video sessions go. So I don't want to mention this person by name, but Lewis knows who she is. The little Jewish one, right? You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to. I don't know if she's cool with me. Mentioning her name on the fucking internet. But when we started 2 years ago, she could not do negative push-ups. So for those who don't know what a negative push-up is, you're doing the eccentric portion of the motion, but without the concentric. So, the concentric is when you overcome the load. So in the push-up, the concentric will be when you go from the bottom and then you push to the top, right? The eccentric is the opposite of that. So she couldn't even lower herself to the bottom, even without the expectation of not having to do the full push-up to go in the opposite direction. And she was the first of my clients to say, hey, I want to keep this going. We're going to do like the video stuff. And, she didn't have a lot of equipment, so we just did a lot of body weight stuff. This same person who couldn't even do half push-ups is doing sets of 20 full push-ups like a fucking boss. Like, I have her killing the push-up so well that she does push-ups better now than probably 90% of the men that you'd see in any gym in the country.
She probably cheats less than I do.
Including some people in the military. I've seen some really horrible military push-ups. I'm like, that's fucking terrible. So, she stayed locked in. she got mentally tougher during this time, because it's not that easy to try to make that personal connection while you're separated, by
Sorry to interrupt you, but
geography.
the audio just started doing that crackling thing again. It stopped when you
Oh yeah,
unplugged the mic and plugged it in.
Steve did. You said what?
The audio started doing that crackling thing that it was before, but when you unplugged the mic and plugged it back in, it stopped. Is that a digital XLR or a USB mic?
This is a U.
That's strange. All right, so I end and I recall. One sec. I will. Okay. And recall. Oh, this is the stupidest noise. Oh my god. That is the lamest, wimpiest little noise. All right, yeah. Someone said, any suggestions for an elliptical under $1,000?
I don't believe in ellipticals. Yeah, I don't believe in ellipticals. If you're looking to get your cardio in, I mean, if you're using an elliptical, you're basically trying to trick your body into burning calories, but you're not really making your body more skilled at anything. You're not making yourself like legitimately skilled at anything. You're just trying to make yourself tired with an elliptical. I suggest trying to procure skill. Running is a skill, believe it or not. Some people worry about the impact of the repetitive impact and the injuries that come from repetitive motions, but it would be better to run than to waste time with an elliptical. Even a stationary bike. I think a stationary bike is good as long as you stay psychologically engaged. Because if you just feel like you're on a hamster wheel, you're not going to get much benefit out of that either. So I think just being tired, just for being tired's sake, for the sake of being tired, it's a fucking waste. It's a waste of money.
Yeah, I got myself a rowing machine, and it helped me lose a lot of the
Yeah,
weight
run
that
to
I
the gym
gained.
and run home. I hate cardio. You know what I do for cardio? I bring the weight down and I do like sets of 15 to 20. That's how I get my cardio in. Fuck running, because I don't like running. But that's just me. Don't take that as my professional opinion. I just hate traditional cardio.
I don't enjoy running much either. I
This
tried.
motherfucker said run to 7-Eleven and buy donuts. I'm finished. But the thing is, that's actually why I don't. That's one of the reasons why I don't believe in. That's one of the reasons why I don't really believe in like the whole elliptical and stuff like that. Because you just made yourself tired, where your body is going to try to make up those calories from somewhere. Your body does not want to be in a caloric deficit. It wants to find equilibrium, or it wants to be positive on calories. We're designed to be fat and to get fatter. We're not designed to work harder. We're designed to innovate so that we don't have to work as hard. So by doing the fitness thing, you're going against human nature in a lot of the ways anyway. So you have to make sure that what you're doing is psychologically engaging in addition to physically useful. So, I got, this tiny woman who couldn't do shit. Oh, by the way, I got her to do up to a 6 rep pull-up set as well. And I have her doing something close to like 17 to 20 pull-ups per session. And for people that understand human biology, women are not generally blessed with upper body strength. So when I tell you that she went from not even being able to activate the muscles in her upper back at all to being able to bust out uh, sets of 6 on the pull-up. And for those who know military, um, if the one of the requirements to make it into the Navy SEALs is that you have to be able to do at least 6 pull-ups. So her being able to do that, and that just made her more enthusiastic about what we were doing, and she's getting stronger even without the equipment. So the video sessions are definitely very useful for people. King Kong said, "I'm female and I was born with Popeye forearms, but Popeye has no biceps, and you need biceps in order to help you do the pull-up."
Yeah, it's
No anchor
interesting.
tattoos. Maybe it's time for you to you need to get them like right on your fucking forearms to complete the look.
It's
Yeah,
interesting.
6 pull-ups is the minimum. 6 pull-ups is the minimum, but you also have to do like a bunch of pull-ups. You gotta you have to be able to do like a lot of pull-ups, and you got to do push-ups, and you have to swim a certain distance in a certain amount of time. There's a whole lot you got to do, but theoretically speaking, if what do you do? What? Okay, Giancarlo. I'm trying to make sure I get to all the comments. Because the thing is, my streams normally have maximum 10 people in the stream, so I don't have to keep stock of all the shit that's going on here. But make an exercise at home. An electrician, your forearms are legit, because your phalanges, you have to be like super skilled. And since you're using your hands, and a lot of people don't know this, but the only reason why you have the kind of use that you have out of your hands is because of the muscles that are connected to your hand are in your forearm. So when you have those finely tuned skills, anybody that is really skilled with their hands, they've got some fucking beautiful ass forearms. So that's what's up. Time Warden in the Twitch asked, "What's your opinion on cycling?" It is important that you understand that you can't just cycle for 10 hours a day, right? Cycling is part of a good health, wellness, fitness program. But if you spend too much time cycling, you're going to end up upsetting the balance between the hip flexor complex and the hamstring / glutes. So if you're constantly in a state of knee flexion and hip flexion, and you stay in that, you run the risk of the term is shortening. You run the risk of shortening those muscles and being stuck in a position that would put you in an anterior pelvic tilt position, which is not good for human movement, body balance, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to make sure that you're doing things in moderation. If you're doing a lot of cycling, you want to do a lot of things that require you to fully extend the hips and the knees. If it's jumping, if it's deadlifting, if it, anything that would equally encourage full hip extension, because cycling requires varying levels of hip flexion, and that's not always the best position to be stuck in. So I hope that answers your question. And one of the things I really like about your audience is that, like, we're all nerds here, right? We're all like, or most of us are like, tech nerds, right? I would say. But when they see me on here and they're like, "Oh, that's the personal trainer dude," and then they're like right on it. Like, there's something that I like about the modern nerd, and one of the things that I've been telling people since I started in the industry is that meatheads are going the way of the dodo bird in the fitness industry, because we already know what it takes to have a great physique. Like, the science is there; it's very clear. But now we're using that science to help people live happy, pain-free, relaxed lives. So, working out smarter and not harder, you can get the physique of the meathead, but be more healthy than the meathead in certain areas. So one of the things I really love is that while you guys are like, "What the fuck is a sports ball?" when it comes to the fitness stuff, you guys are like right on it. So that is really fucking cool.
What you were
And
saying
that's
about not
yeah.
wanting to, like, you stayed in for about 6 or 7 months because the quote new normal was so aggravating as to how everything was. What's interesting to me is I felt the opposite in that I was happy to put a mask on and deal with it so that I would not be stuck inside my apartment for an indefinite period of time. Because that, like, it's minor on discomfort and it's annoying, but it wasn't annoying enough for me to give up what I wanted to do to a
The
certain
thing is, I
extent. Like,
already want to lock myself in the house.
that is
Right?
a key difference. Yes.
So, for those that didn't watch the last stream of this type, I'm pretty open about the child abuse that I survived from pretty much a couple of months old all the way through when I escaped from my mother's house before the age of 20. Um, my house feels like a place that I'm guaranteed safety. So for somebody who suffers as a survivor of various kinds of child abuse, I look at my home as my castle. When I go outside, I feel trapped because I have to watch what everybody is doing. I got to watch, I got to watch for every kind of threat. So I feel kind of trapped being outside. I don't feel as comfortable outside. But when I'm inside, I know exactly who's here. I know exactly what to expect. I know that I can do whatever I want and not have people bother me. So it's one of those weird psychological anomalies that not everybody has to deal with. So people don't really relate to it.
I always wind up thinking to myself, I can't wait until I have free time. I can't wait till I can finally just spend some time inside. And then when I finally have a day or two inside, I think, fuck, I gotta get it. Like, there's gotta be something to do. And I don't.
Oh yeah, and part of that is what we were talking about when we were talking about doing tonight's stream. We were talking about the differences between the suggestion and the mandate. So when you're told that you can't do something, there's that rebellious instinct that kicks in immediately. But if you're told, hey, you can chill out or you can do this other thing, and the choice is left up to you, which is why our economy is so consumer driven, because they found a way to hack our they've been able to hack us psychologically into buying things we don't need by saying, well, you don't have to, but you want to. So they've been, kind of using that part of human psychology against us. So we weren't ready to have our rights just unilaterally stripped from us from some unseen force, because I think that has a lot to do with it as well. If it was the Russians invading, the United States, and they were like coming through Alaska and trying to cross the Atlantic Ocean at the same time, everybody would stay in their fucking house with no questions asked, because that's an enemy that you can see. But we're talking about an enemy that you can't see, and it doesn't look like it's dangerous. It all plays into people not really wanting to comply on a total wide scale,
Yeah,
especially Americans.
what I remember saying was sad is when I read what Japan was doing, it doesn't look like they had you need to close, you need to stay inside. It was just, this is what's happening. Here are the suggestions we have. Please stay apart from each other. Please don't gather into a big group. Please, if you can, wear a mask. And they just did it. Whereas here, we said, you got to close. You got to do it. And then when you say, well, you have to do it, then you have well, no, I don't want to do what you're demanding that I do. But you also have the one of the things that's I don't know if you know who originally coined this phrase. Probably somebody in chat knows. The idea that it's very difficult to get someone to understand something when they're paid to not understand it. So it's very difficult to get someone to understand what a benefit of a lockdown may be when you're literally paying them 60 to 80 to 200,000 a year or 40,000, whatever it is that you make, to not understand it. Because if you're going to make that person lose their livelihood, well, it doesn't matter what fact you presented in front of them. You're paying them to not understand it. And the way that we handled it in the United States is probably the worst of them all. So anybody who watches this stuff probably understands when anytime someone's like, why are you a moron wearing a mask? And I'll say, well, I have a store of 14 people, and if they get sick, I have to pay them all. So I have a vested interest in spending, 50 cents per employee per day and saying, can you put this on? Because I can't afford to pay 15 to 20,000 a week out of pocket with no income. So, and then I will post 60 or 70 scientific studies that show there's a benefit. And then they'll say, Well, rightfully so. Well, in the beginning, they said don't wear a mask. But that
Mm-hmm.
was a lie because they didn't have enough masks for everybody. They were just trying to keep normal people from getting them. And then they changed their mind once the hospitals and everybody else had enough of them and said, oh, well, yeah, you should wear a mask. Just ignore that other shit. So we lied to our population rather than level with them. We never apologized for lying to our population. We tried to force people to do things rather than ask politely because we did not assume that we were mature enough, which then creates a natural response of people saying, well, screw you. You lied to me, and you're trying to make me lose my business and my livelihood. I'm not listening to anything you have to say, even the things that make sense. That
Yeah.
makes the people on the other side even that much more tyrannical. It makes them want to control people that much more. It makes them have that much more vitriol, which makes the other side have way more vitriol, which then make, at that point...
But the thing is, we should have known this was going to happen. You know, I think of the example of transsexualism in our greater culture, right? Our greater modern culture, right? So, you know, right now we have people that are telling us today that that transsexuals have the right to tell you how to think and feel about them. But we all know that that's unreasonable. But how the fuck did we get here? Because when people were killing transsexuals in the street, people laughed or they celebrated and they whooped and they cheered. So nobody met the transsexuals halfway by just giving them, by recognizing their basic human rights. So now they've gone way to the extreme of trying to tell us how to think, feel, and identify and all this other stuff. Is it possible that we're not going through this, ridiculous, tyrannical overreach and overstep if we would have just done the humane thing in the first place and say, you know what, we need to, start prosecuting these people who assault and kill transsexuals to the full extent of the law from the beginning, right? So if you look at the whole coronavirus thing, it's like, well, if people would have been paying attention and if the government would have done what they were supposed to do to curb it at the very beginning, maybe you don't have the overreach you don't have so much of a pushback. And then it goes, and the same principle works in reverse, where, if the pushback wasn't so severe, then the tyranny would not, step up 4, 5, and 6-fold to meet the resistance. So now we got these dueling resistance. Who's going to win out first? And the only thing that we're doing is extending the lockdown. So, everybody ends up losing. It's really, whatever.
I find it sad because when you look at areas like Japan, it seems like they have less need for lockdown, less actual lockdown than we do. Lots of populations that are really highly concentrated into certain areas, and their death, unless they're just completely making it up and just taking a zero.
Underreaction followed by overreaction.
Yeah, unless they just have zeros taken off their numbers, their numbers really show
people who are asking me to identify myself. Holy fuck!
Identify yourself.
I mean, I have rights. I have rights, right? It's a free country. I don't have to give you my identification. Wait, this is not that kind of party, is it? Yeah. So I'm just gonna type hello in the chat. I'm not even a mod in your YouTube. I'm a mod in the the other thing. So I just said hello. Yeah. So I'm Dr. Evil. I've been a YouTuber who's been an invisible YouTuber since 2013. I've been a personal trainer since 2012. Prior to that, I used to be a desktop support technician. I've done sales in my past, but my main love is gaming and consumer technology. So I met Lewis while I was working out on my time off during the day, and Lewis was trying to remove his vertebrae from his spinal cord. So I had to say, "Whoa, can't have you doing that on the floor, guy. Can't be having you fuck yourself up, because I'm the one that's CPR certified, and then I have to touch you, and I don't want to touch people." So I need you to do this shit the safe way. And so a professional relationship was born. Now, I did not know who the fuck he is. In fact, I thought that he was a Hispanic day worker that didn't speak English. So, so I'm like gesturing and shit. And then like I heard English. I was like, okay, cool. And then he was like, spaghetti, Scarface, Italian Mafia, Goodfellas. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he said Guido. And I was like, oh, gotcha. All right. So we're right here. Yeah, it's all good. And so, he had, everybody knows who's been following Lewis. He got run over by one of these e-bike delivery guys who's a fucking asshole. And he throws the food at Lewis. So Lewis chases him down and tears his quadricep. Doctors say, hey, sorry, Lewis. You're doomed to skip leg day for the rest of your life. And Lewis was like, nah, I would rather have my vertebrae pop out of my spinal column with the force of a 22 caliber bullet than to give in to what this doctor says. So he was basically working one leg and then using the injured leg as a kickstand. And I put a stop to that shit. So people, you might have heard, oh, my personal trainer friend who helped me, I'm that guy. So for those that don't know, I'm pretty sure for the next 3 streams that I do on Lewis's channel, I probably will be explaining this again. But the reason why I end up on his channel is because Lewis and I are known in our gym for having very spirited social commentary conversations where we do a little bit less lifting than we do arguing. And we have a lot of fun doing it. So he's like, hey, why don't we bring it to the stream and let people consume that and get a different, get to see our juxtapositions. I love weird words like that. So for instance, we anytime he puts out a video, I immediately send him a wall of text in text messages, and then we start going at it back. I mean, we don't go at it because we're not like these people today that, you're evil if you don't think the way I think. But our views are so radically different that we have some really enlightening conversations. So we wanted to bring these conversations to you guys and get, you guys' thoughts.
I think one of the interesting points where we left off our discussion was with that restaurant owner that was saying, take me to jail if you don't want me to open my restaurant. And you had said, what about there are his rights? You had said, I think, one of the reasons that the lockdown has been so long and the reason that people have been continuously getting sicker because of people like this that just decided, I'm never going to close and I'm not going to compromise on the rules at all. And you had said, what about the rights of the 210,000 people that died? And I think that's a good question. Like, I don't mean that in a sarcastic sense, but what are the rights of the people that died? So when it comes to, I personally think that it's ridiculous that he doesn't see the difference between a Home Depot where the ceilings, I don't know if you've been to the Home Depot on Notion and DeKalb or Pulaski.
I have.
40 feet high ceilings at least, right? Like that's different than 7 foot high ceilings at a restaurant. But aside from that part of him not seeing the difference in it, is I think that we consider several things there. So the first is, are you allowed to do it, or is that part of your freedom or your rights? What is the utility of what you're doing, and what does it harm? So for instance, if we're talking about cigarette smoking indoors, are you free to do it? Yes. Is there utility to it? Virtually no. And does it harm other people? 100% yes. So we say, okay, you know what? Fuck that. That's off the table. You're not allowed to smoke indoors in a restaurant or in a small store in a shopping mall. We say that's not allowed. And then you take it to driving a car. Are you allowed to drive a car? Are you free? Yes. Is there utility? Yes, it allows you to get around, have a functioning economy and society on a higher level. And is there harm? Yeah, well, if you're driving 20 miles an hour, less than if you're driving 80. So let's say it's a highway. Let's say you're driving 80 miles an hour. But
yeah.
Now, are you free to do it? Yes. Are those are your sour grapes?
Oh! Very well played, Mr. Rostam. Very well played.
So are you free to do it? Yes. Is there utility to driving a car at 80 miles an hour? Absolutely. It means that you can go from here. I could commute from here to Pennsylvania, and I could actually have a job in Pennsylvania. I had economic opportunity. I'm able to contribute in another community. That's great. Is there a chance of death? Absolutely. Because if I'm driving at 80 miles an hour and I hit someone, man, chances are they're dead. Or very, very badly mangled. But we still allow it because of the utility. And I think that line is moving in different places for different people, and that's where the question of rights comes in. So what are their rights? What are the rights of people that would, let's say, not be able to get around if they were driving at 20 instead of 80 because driving at 80 permits a risk to people? Like, what is acceptable? And there's clearly a disagreement in the country over what is acceptable.
So my view on it is, because I like what Snowhawk said about driving 200 miles an hour in Germany, but still won't do it, right? So I've had time to think about this, because we had this discussion about why I think that the New Jersey restaurant owner is both a selfish prick and a tragic victim. Why I believe that there's both. Like, it's not a black and white thing. It's very, very gray, right? So I've always been very anti-drug my entire life, mainly because a lot of the people that are hand in abusing me, they were all on different drugs. And so I started thinking about it, and I had a more of a nuanced position on it, in that I support your right to do drugs if and only if you are the only person negatively impacted by your drug use. So there is a difference between smoking something and doing an acid tab, right? As long as you don't go out there and murder somebody while on acid, right? Because if that acid does something and fries your brain, it's your own fucking brain. If you don't care about your health, I can't care about you more than you care about you. But when you smoke the cigarette, you don't inhale and then just swallow that shit. No, you exhale the byproducts. So that's where I have a problem with that. You need to, whatever your vice is, you have to make sure that other people are not negatively impacted. So when we talk about driving 20 miles per hour versus driving 80 miles per hour, I support your right to drive 80 miles per hour as long as the car crash that ends with a fatality only ends with your fatality. You can't drive 80 and then kill a family of 7.
But there's always that chance there. Isn't there always that chance there that you're more likely, even if you're driving safely, because someone else on that road is likely to make a mistake. If you make a mistake at 80, that's a much bigger likelihood of a clusterfuck than if you're driving at 20. But right. So with the virus, we're trying to set up what makes sense. Like, what is safe, what is not safe. I've had people tell me, I think I know where the line is for me, where I say, fuck that, and me on both sides. So for me, I don't want to go inside of a restaurant where that's small.
Hold on. I gotta address this. Do you think that EMS should not help people who are obviously addicted to drugs? Hell no. That is not right. You still help people. But what I'm saying is, if you want to deal in anything that could possibly cause harm, make sure the harm only comes to you. I didn't say anything about whether or not those people should be helped. You know, like there. Also, we're talking about another gray area. Some people end up on drugs because they had the back injury. I mean, look at the opioid epidemic. I mean, come on, you got to be a little bit more nuanced. You have to be able to understand that we're reasonable people talking here. This is not, right versus left or libertarian versus green party. We're reasonable individuals having this conversation here. So when you put stuff in the chat, please try to refrain from like putting words in my mouth or insinuating some extreme fucked up position. Like, no, we're not here for that. We're not here for that. Everybody, even if you crash your car at 80, everybody should be running to grab the jaws of life to help you. But you're the only one harmed, and that's the fucking point. As long as you're the only one harmed and you don't harm anybody else, you should be free to do what you want.
So I think that there are specific areas where I can say, screw you, you're way too far one way or the other. There are things that I wouldn't want to do. So I would not want to be in a crowded restaurant because when people talk and they eat, they spit. And it's disgusting. And being around a bunch of people who are spitting is a particularly disgusting thing to do in the middle of a pandemic. I don't want to do that. Then I also had someone who had said that it was evil that I stayed open because when I'm on my way home, when I'm riding my bike home, that means even if I'm wearing a mask, even if I'm going at, well, fine, fuck it, 35 miles an hour. Are you happy, you pricks? Even if I'm going 35 miles an hour down the road. I
thought it was 19.9999999999999. Or no, wait, it's 24.999999999.
That ship sailed when you saw that I almost set my apartment on fire. So we can be a little more truthful now. But no, if I'm going 35 miles an hour down a road, or 25 or 35 down a road, and there's nobody around me, and I'm wearing a mask, someone said, well, you don't understand. You're spreading particulates of the virus, and that person that's 24 or 30 feet away from you on the sidewalk, that person could then get it and then give it to their mailman who gives it to an old lady and then they kills them. And at that point, It's like, you know what? Maybe there's a chance that little piece of particulate while I'm breathing gets through my mask and then magically jumps to the homeless guy 24 feet away from me as I'm going 35 miles an hour.
But at least you did all that you could do to prevent that from happening. You wore the mask, you stayed away, you did all the things you could do. You can't stop everything all the time. So that's why we're talking about being reasonable. Like, he was like, well, it affects your insurance rate, so it does affect other people. But there's a difference between giving somebody a virus that could potentially kill them and raising up everybody's insurance premiums by $1.50 a year. Like, we're not talking about the same thing. I'm drunk enough for this.
I think that there's a giant disagreement on where that line is. What is enough?
You can see with Art Stone here, like there's a giant like chasm there between like the thoughts on it. Like, you know, okay, so people don't pay the hospital bill or what have you. I mean, but that's not an issue of you living and doing what you want. That's an issue of a fucked up medical system that has artificially boosted prices so that they can get filthy fucking rich. That is not the fault of you driving your car or doing an acid tab or setting your apartment on fire with your e-bike. Like, you know, people are going to live
Sponsored
life.
by Unit Pack Power.
You're going to have to, you're going to have to live right life. You're going to have to take risks. It's different than we living under a system that is built to take advantage of us and to exploit us as a society. Like, those are two completely different things.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned was when you said, listen to what I said, not what you think I said. I did a video recently where I was going over the Sturgis thing versus... And I wound up unlisting it, which is probably stupid because I noticed 99% of my comments didn't listen to what I said. They listened to what they thought I said or what the other person said. That made me so depressed.
Mm-hmm. That's why I always tell you, when you get upset about the one negative comment that, you know, somebody put in your chat, I'm like, dude, like, look at the rest of the chat. But, you know, our brains are wired to retain the negative and to bypass the positive because it's a defensive mechanism. It's a survival tactic. But it is still a good practice to say, well, you know, this person might say something, you know, that tries to paint you in a bad light, but then you'll have 1,500 people to that one person vouching for you. Pay attention to those people.
The other reason I was saying that, even what I was trying to say in that video was that even if you have science explaining to you why a virus is more likely to spread in one area or have negative effects than another, you actually need to sell the policy to people because people have to buy into the government policy. And what I found funny here is that a lot of people who are science nerds, who love science, who appreciate science, don't seem to be able to grasp that it's virtually impossible politically to sell what they were trying to sell in that one scientific study to people. I don't know. Did you read that study at all? The one about the protests versus the Sturgis motorcycle rally?
As super spreader events, I think they were saying that the protests did not lead to widespread coronavirus infections, but they, tracked. They did like some tracking of people that went to Sturgis to like, I think like I think 8 states uh, that they went back home to started seeing elevated infection rates.
Yeah.
I
So
don't really understand why that could be, because those, you have all of these people in close proximity marching at the top of their lungs, like projecting as many water droplets as far as they can. I don't understand how that didn't have an effect.
well, there was some people that complained about the study's methodology and claimed it was biased. I just took it at its face value and said I'm going to assume everything here is true. So the
Right.
first thing that they brought up is that the people that go to Sturgis, on average, were considerably older than the average person protesting. So it would have taken them longer to get better, and they would have been symptomatic for longer, etc. The second thing that they said was that the Black Lives Matter protests, what they've found is that even though there were more people going out in the street for the protest, the more other normal people who were not protesting, rather than go outside during the protest, decided that they were going to stay home, and that effect. So I was okay. So let's turn let's say that science. Let's say the science is 100% correct. I'm not going to dispute any of it because I'm not a scientist or a statistician. Let's say I'm a politician. Let's say I'm like I'm a governor or a mayor in South Dakota, right? I got to make a policy for my citizens and explain this to them. Okay, here's the thing. I know that you're not allowed to have your rally. Now, they're allowed to have their protest. You can't have your rally because here's the thing. You guys, you eat at Arby's, you're older, you're unhealthy, you're fat, you're actually going to get sick and die. But they're not. So you can't have your rally. And also, here's the thing. When you have your motorcycle rally, people want to come outside and see it. They think it's fun. Wow, I want to hang out with them. They're friendly. Whereas when the protests happen, that actually causes more people to stay home because, well, we're not even going to get into that.
There are another couple of factors too. The protesters made it a point. Almost all of them were wearing masks. The people at Sturgis, when you look at the reports of people who were there and some of the video footage, Sturgis looked more like an anti-coronavirus lockdown rally more than it was a motorcycle rally. So people were in each other's faces. They were in closer proximity. There were a lot of fights that happened. People were in close proximity, and they weren't wearing masks. They were just like, yo, like, I don't, fuck the masks, fuck the lockdowns, fuck all of this. I'm going to get up in people's grill. And so when you look at how the virus has chosen to propagate itself, its chosen life cycle, can't call it life cycle because a virus isn't actually a living being, but I digress. I think that there are some fundamentally different behaviors from the protesters and the people that were at the motorcycle rally. And if you look at if you look at the demographics of the people who went protesting are probably younger and in better shape. A lot of the Sturgis people are a little bit older. They don't take care of themselves as well. They do a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs. They lived hard lives on the road, on their bikes, et cetera, et cetera. So there are a lot of different factors that play into it, not just, oh, these people were out and those people were out.
Let's say that the mask thing wasn't even a part of the issue. How would you sell to your constituents that because you guys have more people wanting to come out and see you, and because you're older, you're not allowed to go outside, but they can? How do you sell that to them in a manner that makes them obey the policy? Because that's what I was saying when they say, why don't people listen to science and politics, or why don't they create policy based on science? How a politician has to have the buy-in of people, because if the people don't want to listen to the law, then it doesn't really matter. So, like, how would you? How do you get so? True. So how would you sell that? Is my question.
You can't. You can't. I mean, when you talk about selling, it reminds me of my job as a personal trainer. And you and I have had this discussion since day one. I let you know on day one, you are going to get the benefit of the exact percentage of the instructions that you follow. So if you follow half of what I tell you to do, you're going to get half the gains. But a lot of people in the beginning don't buy in because they like the way that they live. That's why they live the way they live. They're comfortable. Me as a trainer, when you come to me, You're coming to me to make you uncomfortable, to pull you out of your comfort zone. So it's going to take time for people to buy in, which is why I don't really get upset, when people, don't buy in all the way, because I understand the human psychology of it. But
Jeremy just said, I've been to Sturgis. The women that shouldn't take their shirt off do, and the ones that should
them
don't.
Puppies. Yeah, them puppies, Jeremy.
And one person mentioned about the mask, like there were protests where people didn't wear masks. In New York City, protest or just normal life, there is a scatter pattern with masks. If you see a group of people, one person has a mask, another has a mask this,
here,
another has a mask like this, and then another doesn't have it at all. That's a natural scatter pattern across New York City, regardless of political viewpoint, religion, sex, race, any of that. Doesn't matter. It's like it is the way it is. And like in Japan, in South Korea, they're probably staring and just fucking laughing, but that is something we're not going to evolve past that for a generation or two. Culturally,
laughing at the women showing their titties that they shouldn't, that, like Jeremy was talking about.
I didn't see any of that. I just saw the ones that should have been, because I looked it up on YouTube and checked out some of the videos. But
are you sure that you only looked it up on YouTube?
100%.
Okay.
But But what I did see when I saw the videos is that there was one dude wearing a mask at the entirety of Sturgis from the videos. I wasn't there. I'm not saying only one person did, but from the videos I saw, there was a difference, and it was just cultural difference. In New York City, people are at least kind of trying to pretend, okay, look, I'm gonna kind of follow the regulation.
Mm-hmm.
But like in there, it was just nobody following the regulation, and I understand why there's less people following it. If you just look at Google Maps, we are a dot with 2.4 million people. They are just gigantic plane with like 900,000 or a million people. So to them, they can't understand when they go around and they see that virtually nobody they know has gotten it. They really do.
It's not real to them.
And the thing is, if you've never been to New York City, and I've met people that have never been, that just were visiting or something, they actually get anxious when they show up here because of how close they are to so many other people. It actually causes them physical anxiety, and you can see the traits because they've never been here before.
It's not just them. It's you too, Lewis. It's me too. It's not just them. It's everybody. This is not a natural environment for any living being to exist in, period.
Yeah.
It's not just them. It's just that you have adapted to the stress. But the stress is still there.
Yeah, so to them, they don't understand why we are as anxious about it as we are. And it's because when you're like stacked one person on top of the other, you are. Like if you just take a look at the Chinese wet markets and you see these pictures in the New York Times, you'll have like a chicken on top of a cat on top of a pangolin, and like they're all fucking stacked one on top of the other, and you wonder why stuff winds up spreading in those places. But it's different. It's same thing here. It's like we are like New York City is kind of like the equivalent of a wet market versus South Dakota, where it's like, wait, I get a backyard and my house has a side to it. You mean it's just not the wall of my neighbor's place? Wow. Mm-hmm. And it's like to them, this is a completely foreign concept that you're just stacked one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. It's not natural, and it causes disease to spread in a manner that it's just not going to spread there. So when people in New York City are trying to explain to people in Custer, South Dakota, or Casper, Wyoming about this, it doesn't make sense to them the same way. And I don't blame them for the fact that it doesn't make sense to them the same way.
Mm-hmm. One of the things you said, I want to add to it, because you were talking about how people being on top of each other causes the virus to spread quicker. That's true in two ways. Aside from the obvious way, which you're talking about people being close contact. The stress of people living on top of each other lowers the effectiveness of our immune system. So you're going to be even more susceptible to getting infected when those people come into close contact with you, because too many people are in close contact with you. How fucked up is that?
Yeah, it's sad. And like to them, it's not even just about the virus. Like there's been a gigantic divide in the country for 30, 40, 70 years where they just think that our entire method of life is ridiculous. If people that they know want to leave that town to come to New York City to make it, there is this sense that you left us, you think that you're better than us. You don't want to be around us anymore. There's a disdain there. There's a resentment that's been there. There's a cultural resentment that's been there. So when we say you need to live your life this way, you need to change how you live, you need to wear a mask, you need to do this, they're not just thinking about it from an epidemiologist point of view. They're just thinking of it as a fuck these city people telling me how to live my life way about it. That doesn't I don't know if that kind of stuff exists in South Korea or Japan and these other areas where when they come up with policies to deal with the virus, it's easier for them to make one policy or one system for the entire country versus here where it really is like a bunch of small countries inside of one continent.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. And because a lot of times we think of it as the United States.
It's states.
But
States.
yeah, but I mean, what is a state around the world? Like a state is just a part of our country to us. But if you look at other states around the world, they are countries. And we have states in our country that are more populous than whole other countries. So, when they say, Texas is its own country and they make jokes about secession, it's kind of true.
Yeah, I mean, like, Texas, like, for instance, there was this, one of the things you were talking about before was when it comes to the trans people and the people that were getting attacked and blah, and now when you see people who go too far politically, well, it probably happened because in the beginning they felt like they weren't listened to. I remember there was this one individual that was in my Discord, I'm never going to forget it, that I wasn't even in my Discord at the time. There was someone who said something like man in a dress or something like that, and they emailed me. 15 minutes later, I had a 1-star Yelp review. Half an hour later, I read a threat that I was going to be put on this fascist or whatever group watch list on Facebook, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, geez. And then I saw that this individual had run to be a politician. I think it was in Portland, Oregon. And for people who think that New York City politics is maybe particularly too liberal for them, I mean, Portland is really considerably more so than that. And then you have like areas like Texas that when you go to certain areas of Texas, you would wonder if it is the same country as when you go to Portland, Oregon. When you visit, areas of like Casper, Wyoming or Custer, South Dakota, and then you visit Bushwick, Brooklyn, you really do wonder, is this the same country? Because the people are so, in certain ways, just so fundamentally incompatible on viewpoints in those ways that it doesn't seem like it seems if you just, let's say, visited Japan or visited Germany with regards to, cultural norms and everything else.
And somebody in the chat was asking about the population of New York. The state of New York is about 20 million, but New York City has about 8.5, 9 million. And we're a very, 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 like, if you look at a map of the state of New York, and then, like, the city of New York is like a grain of rice compared to the rest of the state. But almost half of the state's population lives here in New York City. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I had to ride a while back for a licensing or a permit test or something to Syracuse because in New York City, if you want to make an appointment at the DMV, you got to wait 3 to 4 months unless you go to 350 miles up to the middle of absolute utter bumfuck nowhere. And
Why do you think I let my driver's license expire and the inspection on my car? I let that expire too. Because fuck it, I'm not dealing with that DMV shit.
We should take our next trip to the Onondaga DMV together. But what struck me as strange is
what the fuck is that?
I saw a Trump pen sign on the way there, and I'm just like, holy shit, am I still in New York? But the rest of New York is different from New York City. Because in New York City, excluding Staten Island, which is its own country in and of itself, and that's probably a topic for its own video, you would never see that sign here. And even if somebody had that political viewpoint, they'd probably keep it to themselves because they don't want the pile on of everybody destroying them.
Legal, you bums. I did today. I this week I did get my driver's license renewed, and I did that before I took the car to the dealership to get the service and the. So I did take care of it. I did take care of it.
Let's see.
Do you have any comment on Linus from Linus Tech Tips celebrating Trump getting COVID on his Twitter? I can see why, because I think that people are very angry. Just like when people on the right celebrated RBG dying, and they were all happy because she died, or anytime a protester is harmed, they're all celebrating and saying good for you. I think that in both situations, I think that it's morally unacceptable. But when you look at how fucked up these people are, I mean, we're probably going through the worst era of our lifetimes. I don't think that we've seen hardship, especially for people in our age group, 18 to, let's say, 60. I don't really think that we've seen hardship like this our entire lives. So people are not handling it well. So, it's obvious that it's not a good thing for people to be saying or doing. But I think that it really underscores just how difficult life has become for everybody.
I think that he said a bunch of ridiculous shit about COVID, so there's people that are going to laugh when he gets it. I'm not one of the people that's going to start laughing hysterically at the fact that he got it. I may just go, "Oh, really?" I'm just going to look at my phone and go figure, and then put it
exactly.
down.
The irony.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go okay, I listened to what you had to say about it in March, and then April, and then June, and whatever. But I don't know. I genuinely don't care what another person. I don't exist to comment on everything that Linus says, so I don't really care. I'm not
Kyle,
one of those.
Kyle, I'm gonna respond. He said he put Wu Flu to try to avoid the censors and not to be mean or anything. Kyle, there's a reason why he has this on a second YouTube channel and not his main channel. We're gonna say a lot of shit that is not going to be good for the algorithms. So it's okay. Say what you got to say.
I'll admit that I did see a video of a protester with a Molotov cocktail that wound up setting himself on fire and needed police to help put the fire out. I fucking laughed at that. I don't care if that makes me a piece of shit. I laughed at it. I thought it was funny. I'm allowed to laugh at that. I almost set my girlfriend and my house on fire. So at the very least, let me laugh at someone else doing something stupid. If he wasn't
a protester and it was just one of those derp videos on YouTube, everybody would laugh. So I don't see why the situation changes anything. You still laugh at him.
I'm not trying to keep points on the this person, because if you look at Ben Garrison comics, he's laughing at Ruth Bader Ginsburg almost being at the door of death. If you look at people who are more liberal, they're laughing at Trump getting COVID. I'm just beyond the point where I even care about keeping score. I just don't want to become I don't want to become more of I don't want to get into the trap of, well, let's say I lean over here, and those people over there are being real assholes, which leads me going over there. And then once I'm over here, then I become as much of an asshole as you. Yeah, it's I'm doing my best to avoid that, and I saw myself in 2017 starting to fall into that shit, and I've really been just trying to bring my way back to being a nuanced, sensible human being. And it's a hard thing to do. It's really easy to become agitated and aggravated and pissed off at it, and
Yep. Yeah. So, a lot of people are, I feel like we're also in this era of gotcha, the gotcha, politics or whatever. Well, you said that, this is unacceptable, but what about when it happened in the opposite? Keep the same energy. You know me, Louis. I'm like, keep the same energy. I'm not going to say, Linus, wow, good on Linus. I've only seen one of his videos, and it was a video that he did with Lewis, and I didn't get great vibes from his character watching that video. That's the only video I've seen, so I can't judge the man.
Billy Brad said, I think there's still more moderates in this country than left or right. We're just not as vocal. And I think a big part of it is I think that they're particularly afraid to be vocal. Because if you're a moderate in, deep Alabama, you're probably as afraid to be vocal as if you're a moderate in, Bushwick, Brooklyn. If you are a moderate, you will wind up with someone in your Discord says something somewhat stupid, and half an hour later your business has a bad Yelp review with a threat that you're going to be listed as a fascist or whatever on some group because, like, I wasn't even awake for this shit. It's just, I mean, there's 15,000 people in there. I get 18,000 YouTube comments a day. I mean, it's like, I don't know where to go. I forgot where I was going with this, but.
Hey, we're just throwing thoughts out there. I want to reply to King Kong. King Kong says, I wish BLM and the protesters wouldn't just play into the hands of the far right. I'm going to do you one better. And I'm going to say that the far right and the protesters, they're the same fucking people. They just wear a different color uniform. It's like when you look at the Crips and the Bloods, for those who don't know, the Crips are a gang that was started in the West Coast in the 1970s, right at the dawn of the crack epidemic. And they originally were a community organization that was about protecting the community and helping those who were underserved originally. Then the drug thing came, and then you had the Bloods versus the Crips, right? The Bloods wear the color red, the Crips wear the color blue, for those that don't know, right? When you look at it, the far right are the Bloods and the far left are the Crips. Holy shit. Democrats blue with and the far right with the red. They're both different gangs. They wear different colors, but the mindset and the impetus for their actions are the same. They're actually the same. It's just that I feel like this about that, and I feel like this about the other thing. And one of the things that really annoys me about American politics is that most Americans are more nuanced and more intelligent than that. Even I can admit they're more nuanced and more intelligent than that. There are people out there who think that women should have the right to choose and we should honor the Second Amendment. Like, we don't have like, oh, if you believe in this, then you also have to believe in all of this checklist of other things. People are different, and they have varying levels of support for different policies and what have you. So I think that when you look at, it's easy to say, well, I wish they wouldn't fall into the machinations of the far right. Well, you can also look at the far right and say the same thing. Oh, I wish that they wouldn't fall in to the same, to the trappings of, these leftists, right? It goes in both directions.
I think that the thing that certain people have in common is that they want to see the world burn, and they may have different reasons for wanting to see things burn. Some of them may have justifiable reasons for wanting to see things burn. But I think that there's something there of wanting to see it burn and just being so frustrated with the system that you want to tear it down entirely and stop caring about moderate ways to try and get change. Whether it's a group of... what bothered me about BLM was when I heard... when there were a bunch of stores getting... tossed up in what did I miss? You probably cut me off at a time that makes sense.
If you're a moderate West Coast gang member, do you wear purple?
Okay, that's kind of funny. I actually had to go pee, and now I'm gonna have to pee sooner because I'm gonna be laughing.
I wasn't ready.
No. Well, what bothered me is when they were talking about what happened in Chicago, and there were certain stores that got looted, and some BLM member was asked. They said something along the lines of, "Well, at least if they did that, person is going to be able to eat that day. They'll have something for themselves. I'll consider that reparations." And like what? Okay, so you have someone say something that's somewhat controversial, whatever. But like no one ever said, "Oh no, that's not us. We don't agree with that." Because like I look at videos like
John makes a good point.
What?
5-minute pre-break for you. I'll hold down the stream. Why should you sit there
after
with a full
I finish
bladder?
my point? But like I look at that, I look at the George Floyd tape, and I think that's fucked up. That person should be in prison. I will hear about the Breonna Taylor case. I don't like. Also, that is fucked up. I'll hear about the Philando Castillo case. That is fucked up. And then I hear that shit, and it's like come on. Like I hear what you're saying. I understand your problem. But I have a business. And like, it would be nice if you said, listen, we're really pissed off. We don't want to be associated with people that break into stuff. Like, that's all I need you to say to be happy. And it's like, can you say that? Because what I notice with right to repair, especially with the stuff that happened in the Henry Cousby case, is I need to say, here's what I'm for. But once Vice starts pretending that they weren't putting fake Apple logos on things that were really low quality and then hiding that information, that, like, I'm not with that. I'm not for what Jack Telecom did to Henry Cousby was fucked up. Apple had a right to be pissed. Admittedly, they should be pissed at Jack Telecom, not Henry Cousby. But when Vice decided, I'm not going to announce that to the public, I needed to put my foot down and say, no, this is not a part of right to repair. I'm not with you. Fuck that. You need to kind of separate off from that, because then I'm going to lose the support of people from it. Granted, most of our Apple hates me, and that's never going to change. But there's probably someone watching in our Apple that thinks, you know what, I don't really like this guy, but I kind of forget two of the things he's saying. And if I pull a heel move like that, where I have all this information right in front of me, and I choose not to publish it, and then a journalistic outlet doesn't publish it, and I don't call them out, that guy's going to say fuck Lewis and his stuff forever. If I'm going to have that person on, if I'm going to have that person really understand what I'm advocating for, I need to be real with them. And, like, it's not that hard to say, just do less of that shit. Oh, okay, yes, it did happen. It was wrong. It was bad. Fuck the people who did it. But I'm still going to focus on the fact that these people deserve justice. That's really all it would take for me to be on board with a lot of it. And the reason that I was...
You know what's funny about what you just said? That's what minorities have been saying for over 4 centuries in this country. And I think that we had, like, this issue with Trayvon Martin in 2012.
Do you mind if I go to use the restroom? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I'll explain the point. Yeah, while you go. So I'm just going to build on what you just said, right? If people would have said from the beginning, you know what happened to Trayvon Martin was fucked up. George Zimmerman was given instructions by the police dispatcher to not pursue the kid, do not follow him, do not accost him, do not assault him, do not get beat up and then pull out a gun when you get shot, right? If people would have said, you know what, George Zimmerman sought out that confrontation, he stalked that kid while he was minding his business, and then when he got what was coming to him, he pulls out a gun like a fucking coward. If people would have just said that, I don't even think that we have people marching in the streets today. But again, just like I was talking about, the response to the coronavirus and the response to LGBTQ LMNOP, when you can't just have a reasonable response to something that's really fucking obvious, you're encouraging people to go radical. So when people talk about radicalization, they think of it as, oh, this person went to a mosque and they took him to some secret room, and now they're going to be strapping on a bomb. No, it doesn't work that way. Radicalization doesn't work that way. Sometimes when you can't just understand that other people are going through things that you cannot identify with, then if you can't do that, you're going to get a more extreme example. And I'll give you a better example. Trump getting into the White House in the beginning. And again, Lewis, we've had these conversations multiple times. Every single time a leftist calls somebody a sexist or a homophobe or a racist for simply disagreeing on any topic, you're radicalizing the right. So now you have people that are not even voting for their own best interest. They're just voting to spite you.
They're just voting to say fuck you.
Yeah, it's a giant fuck you.
How many people are not voting for the person they're voting for? They're just voting against the people that they dislike. I think that... You just read Kyle Kilgore's comment.
Arts official said something that I was thinking, so now I have to address it. That pee was too quick to have been wholesome. I do not condone quick pee. Quick pee is of the devil. That's how you know he didn't wash his hands for 30 seconds.
My hands have liquid on them, and it's not pee. But no, I think right now people are not voting for the person they're voting for. They're voting against the people that they hate. It's like, I don't even think that this policy is good. It's just, you hate him and I hate you, so I'm voting for him. Yep. And like I remember, I spoke with one of my own employees back in early June, and who was a minority, and I said to him, "What do you think of everything that's going on here? Because I don't have the same viewpoint as everybody here." And he said, "Well, when I was 16, I had this experience where these old people said that this happened to them, and apparently I fit the description of whatever it was. So these cops, while I was at school, just tossed me up against the wall and embarrassed and humiliated me. And then when they figured out that they were wrong and I wasn't the one they were looking for, they never apologized. So I honestly don't care when certain things like this are happening. I think that, you earned it." I said, and now if that cop had just simply looked at you and said, "Listen, man, we got it wrong. We fucked up. I'm sorry." Like, you probably wouldn't remember that shit 11 years later now, would you? Or maybe you would. And he's like, "No, I probably would have forgotten about it and not cared." But it just, it sits there and it ferments and it resents and, the resentment, it just grows. And that's what you're experiencing. And I said, "So what do you think of what's going on when they say stuff like this regarding the stores getting, And he said, "No, all that stuff's wrong. Those people are assholes. They shouldn't be break." And I said, "No, you can give me your opinion here. Like, everybody here disagrees on everything. You're not going to lose your job if you say it doesn't matter if a brick gets thrown through a window." And he says, "No, I don't want that to happen. And if they're saying that, they're making themselves look foolish. But they're the loudest people. And because they're the loudest people with the microphone, everybody thinks that the rest of us agree with them."
That's exactly the case. Art Stone referenced the Trayvon Martin incident, pulled out his gun when Trayvon Martin was on top of him on the ground, hit him in the head. Did that happen in a vacuum, Art Stone? Did that happen in a vacuum? Did they just magically end up in that position? Or were there a series of events that occurred that led to that? So all of that needs to be taken into consideration. If I stalked you on the street and then killed you, I'd be going to jail for murder. Right? Now, if Trayvon Martin was stalking him and accosted him and he pulls the gun, then you've got to stand your ground. You've got that. And I'll support you in self-defense. But you can't attack somebody and then claim self-defense.
With no camera, I would have loved to have seen a camera for that incident.
Anonymous said there was no stalking. According to the police report, and according to the dispatcher who was on the phone with him, the dispatcher said, "Do not follow. Do not engage with them. We will send out a unit. Do not follow." Trayvon Martin was walking away from him. The dispatcher said, "Do not follow." He continued to follow. How is that not stalking? If you replace Trayvon Martin with a woman and a man starts following her, what do we call that? It's called stalking. Now, if Trayvon Martin was following George Zimmerman, then light his ass up. RIP, peace out, sorry to the family. But the fact of the matter is, he was talking to his objectively unattractive girlfriend on the phone, eating garbage candy and drinking a garbage sweetened beverage, walking away. George Zimmerman followed him against officials' orders. When you follow somebody on the street and you don't know them, and the following is not wanted, that is the definition of stalking.
I was more towards the George Zimmerman side of that story until I had an experience where someone who was a fan was following me, and I recall looking at him and saying on camera, "If you keep following me, I will be forced to do something that will get me put in prison," and I was next to a cop car, and you had pointed it out to me. That was the moment where I kind of understood where you were coming from and people who were more on Trayvon's side were coming from. Because, like, I've had more and more events where people follow me, because I'm in a large city and I have over 1 million subscribers, and I would probably beat the crap out of the average person that's following me. Like, the other thing there is that I can't actually see what happened. I'm sure if there was, I almost shouldn't say that. I'm sure if there was a video camera where you could literally see exactly what happened, that there'd be more clarity. But then on the same side, we've argued about the Kyle Rittenhouse thing, where there is actual video of what happened, and many other people have been. I've seen people argue about what happened in Georgia.
You know, it's ideology. Like people, when people respond, "Oh, but he turned around." But we just saw Kyle Rittenhouse with the rifle turn around and shoot someone. He was the shooter, and people said that was self-defense. But you replace Kyle Rittenhouse with Trayvon Martin, and Trayvon Martin didn't even have a gun, and people still try to justify his murder. You get what I'm saying? That's how you know it's ideological. Because the same people that think that Trayvon Martin deserved to die because he was killed by somebody following him also think that the people who were following Kyle Rittenhouse also deserved to die because they were following him.
Well, the people that were chasing him were screaming. The people chasing him were screaming, "Get him!" and were obviously going to fucking beat the crap out of him. Like, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I know that.
This is before he shot someone, because first he shot the guy. He shot one guy who was chasing him. After there was some noise in the background, so they were chasing him. There's a noise in the background, like someone fired a shot into the air.
Someone fired a shot,
and then he shot someone. And then after he shot someone, he started running. And then at that point, people started chasing him. And then when it was clear,
they probably thought the shot came from him, right?
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. But then after he actually did shoot somebody, that's when the chasing really intensified at that point. Because they're like, there's someone shooting here. We got to stop him from shooting other people. And the fight or flight mechanism in your brain, some people are going to fight. Some people are going to engage in flight. A lot of people just simply ran away from him. Other people felt like they were going to be the hero to stop him from shooting other people. I can't. My thing is, if I've got a plastic bag or a skateboard, I'm not beating an AR-15. I'm getting the fuck out of there. But that's just me.
My sympathy and my bias is obvious because I, as a business owner, that was worried about my stuff getting destroyed. So my bias when I look at that case is someone goes there because they want to protect a business. They say they want to protect a business and they stand in front of it. People are dragging shit in front of it, setting fires to dumpsters and crap right next to it. And someone
Yeah, sorry. So Artificial is proving my point. Look at his comment. No bicep dude held a handgun, wasn't allowed to own a gun. Neither was Kyle Rittenhouse. He also wasn't allowed to own a gun at his age and crossing state lines. So and that's what I'm talking about. It's that selective selective acknowledgement of laws and statutes when it supports your cause, but not when it doesn't support your cause. Like Kyle Rittenhouse being there was a continuous felony. Him being there in that capacity, even armed, in a state that he didn't belong in, under the age of 18. So people are like, well, the guy with the handgun wasn't licensed to own the gun. I saw otherwise, but since I don't actually have accurate information, I can't challenge you on that point. But what I'm saying to you is that you're selectively applying the statutes, and it just looks like bias to me. Like, I can't say that you are being biased, but when you say, well, the handgun guy had an illegal gun, when we're talking about a situation about a kid illegally using a gun that he was in illegal possession of, it's like you got to talk about both of them. You can't just say, well, that guy got it because he had an illegal gun. Well, the guy that gave it also had an illegal gun. So what are we talking about?
Where are we discussing the illegal gun? Which one?
That's Artificial.
Oh, I was just saying when I acknowledge being a biased human being when I saw the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. I hear a story and then I watch the video where what I saw, and again,
the guy with the rifle was not allowed.
I pieced this shit together from random Twitter footage, so feel free to correct me if I've mispieced this together. So I see a guy trying to protect what looked like a gas station or something, some business like that. Then you see people bringing a bunch of what looked like dumpsters on fire nearby some other business. Some guy who looked like Kyle hands a fire extinguisher to someone else who tries to put it out. The people who were setting it on fire get pissed off at Kyle. They chase Kyle. They corner Kyle. Someone shoots something into the air behind him. He says, okay, fuck this. I'm not dying. Someone goes to grab his gun, and while they're grabbing the gun, after he hears something go off in his head behind him, he shoots the guy grabbing the gun. At that point, I say, fuck you, good riddance, and perhaps I'm a piece of shit for it. That was what I thought.
But I think the people also misunderstanding my position, too. I don't think that Kyle Rittenhouse is some racist guy because, I mean, when you think about it, he only shot white people. So I don't know why people are like, oh my God, he's so racist. He shot white people. That doesn't even make sense. But I don't think that he went there to harm anybody. I think that he went there with his rifle He crossed state lines with the rifle. He was there with the rifle. He wasn't supposed to have it, but he genuinely believed that he was going to do some good. If you think about Zimmerman, even though he was misguided in his racial bias, he still thought that he was doing some good. So I'm not saying that these people are evil people. It's just that, like, I just don't like the selective application of laws and statutes. I did see an interview with the dude that lost his bicep. He confirmed that the pistol was his, and he was registered to have that pistol, and he was legally in possession of his pistol from the interviews that I saw. Now, I don't know if that can be corroborated or if anybody has any real information on that, not just conjecture. But I don't think that Kyle Rittenhouse went there to harm anybody. I just think that
I think he's in over his head.
he was way in over his head. And the thing is that, the dude, was like, he really wanted to be a police officer, and he really supported, the profession. I'm all for that. I think that, they do a really difficult job. And for the people that do their job well, they are frequently overshadowed by the people who don't do their job well. But the fact of the matter is, he was not qualified to be there in that capacity under any circumstances. And predictably, shit hit the fucking fan. So I've heard people say, well, he's got to do a lot of time in prison. I don't think he's going to do a lot of time in prison. I think that they're going to charge him. They're going to eventually charge him as a minor. And at the max, he's probably going to do 4 years.
I don't think he's going to even do prison time, personally.
No, I think that he is. I mean, he won't do prison time, but I think that he is going to end up in a juvenile facility until age 21. That's how I see that. But I don't think that it was like a murder situation. I don't think that he's an evil kid. I don't think that he went there to go kill some leftists and some communists and some black people. I don't believe in any of that stuff. But I believe that he did the wrong things because he was not properly trained to know how to do the right things at the right time. And of course, when panic sets in, his lack of training was very obvious.
I think that when he thought everything through, the idea that, okay, so there's rioting going on and there's businesses being destroyed. There's no way in hell I'm going to make that worse by taking my gun and running over there to protect it. Like, there's no possible way this could go wrong. No scenario in which this can get out of hand. Obviously, someone probably should have told him, like, listen, man, I get you want to do a good thing, and I get you want to help people. I really do. You're probably going to wind up fucking ruining your life doing this. Don't do it. It would have been best if there were people in his life that said that. I also feel sad at the same time that if he had these good... Like, I feel sad that anybody's put in this position to begin with, because if order had been kept in Kenosha, he probably wouldn't have... There wouldn't be a void for anyone else, for some fucking 17-year-old with a rifle to try and run in a field to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm 30. I'm 37 years old. And I know that, even though I do have some training with firearms, I don't, I know that I'm not trained for crowd control. When the protest came right down by my house, do you know what I did? I stayed my ass in my motherfucking house, and I just made sure that my car, didn't get damaged. That like my whole thing was I just wanted them to just keep marching. I'm with you, in spirit, but don't, damage. And the thing is, I didn't see any of them damage anything. They came down my the main street by my house. They walked and they did their chanting and they did their thing, and I pumped a fist in my heart, not actually not actually literally. But I know that in a situation like that, I'm not qualified to intervene, period. So I do what I'm qualified to do. I'm certainly not going to see something going on in New Jersey and then get in my car and drive to New Jersey to see. Nah, I'm just not going to do that. That's just dumb.
Yeah, I really just stayed at work and had a little horn, and like I set up my horn so that if something happened, I could use remote desktop in and make it work with with a power supply and a relay, and that was pretty much it. But like there was one comment that was good that I lost. One person argued that he handled the situation well because his restraint against the other people around, was probably better than that of the average cop. He probably, I listen. Is it a good idea to go and do what he did? Probably not. Did he? But he did to some extent. When I watched the video, he didn't try to shoot everybody, and he wasn't shooting 30 times. It's like, you're trying to kill me, pop. You're not trying to kill me, You're trying
like
to kill
that.
me.
You know what? I agree with that sentiment. And as I'm processing it, it actually makes police officers look worse because a lot of them say, "Hey, I feared
A
for my
17-year-old
life."
did better. Come on, like really?
That I definitely got to give you, because when you look at the footage of when they threw a plastic bag at him, because I don't know why people are still saying they threw a Molotov cocktail at him. It was a plastic bag that caught the light of a spotlight from some fucking garage had a spotlight, and the bag caught the light from it. But if it was a Molotov cocktail, you'd have saw flames as the bag hit the ground. It was a fucking plastic bag. But when he turns around, it's obvious that he's not mag dumping. He does not mag dump. He's taking a couple of shots, and it actually looks like he's really fearing for his life. So when people defend Kyle Rittenhouse, I'll say, you know what? I'll give you that. But then I got to take you back to all these police shootings. Now, Kyle Rittenhouse, obviously, not trained to deal with the public and to act in a capacity of a law enforcement officer. And you're making the case that he had better trigger discipline than a trained police officer. Then what, like, can we both agree that if you think that Kyle Rittenhouse was somewhat restrained in the way that he approached him actually firing his weapon, that some of these other police shootings don't make any fucking sense? Can we agree on both of those things?
If Kyle Rittenhouse were the police officer that pulled over Philando Castillo, do you think he would still be alive?
Say that again?
Let's, hypothetically speaking, if Kyle Rittenhouse were a policeman and he were the one to pull over Philando Castillo, not the scared chicken shit that actually pulled him over, do you think Philando Castillo would have still been alive?
I'm going to say yes.
Because he that seemed like discipline when people were actually attacking him and trying to kill him, much less, let me show you my driver's license, officer. That's how you can tell the fear is real.
But the thing is, that's how you could tell that a lot of these cops, when they testify, they're lying through their motherfucking teeth. Because if they were really fearful, they would do what our instincts would tell us to do. And our instincts, when we are feeling like we're in danger, we do only the things that are necessary to escape with our lives. Like, you see, in a lot of these officers are just like emptying the magazines on these guys, and they're claiming that, oh my God, I was so scared. But you see a 17-year-old who arguably had way better trigger discipline when his life actually, because you can kill somebody with a skateboard. I mean, did you see that movie, Kids?
Yeah.
You can't kill somebody with a skateboard.
I think he had a sense of pride in what he did. Yeah, I think he had I forget if he was like a lifeguard or some other thing like that. He seemed to have a sense of pride in that. He had a sense of pride, and now he carried his rifle. And yeah, I think there are police out there that don't have pride in the job that they do.
But here's another thing, and this is one of the things, because I know that a lot of people, I've stirred up the right wing hornet's nest a little bit, but I'm going to go in the opposite direction. I'm going to talk to you guys about the reaction that I saw from people on the left that I didn't like. I kept seeing all of this shit about how he's a racist and how he's this this Trump nut. And he's this and he's that. And, I've heard from people that he went there, like, looking to kill people. And I'm like, wait, pump the brakes, right? Because if Kyle Rittenhouse went to that place with only his rifle strapped to his chest, then you can make a case and don't have to stretch so far. But then they ignored the fact that he had a first aid kit strapped around the other shoulder. So what that tells me is that he is a person that really did think that he was going to take a bad situation and make it 1% better, which is why I don't think that murder charges are going to stick, because I don't think that he went there intending to murder people. So when I saw that kind of rhetoric, and it's like, guys, do you understand nuance at all? Are you looking at all of the evidence, or you only care about towing your party line? Like, I don't want to hear anybody's party line. To be real frank with you, I want you to look at the actual evidence of what's there. And I didn't see somebody that went there to harm other people. I just think that he was woefully underprepared for a monumental situation, and it showed.
That I think we agree with entirely.
Yeah, artificial. We agree on that. He was definitely trying to provide first aid. I think he was like trying to like offer people water. You know, there's yeah, manslaughter is still a serious charge, but you know, he still took somebody's life. So, I mean, yeah, you know, setting people's businesses on fire aren't good, but those people are always brought to justice. Those people are going to face charges. I know that somebody in the comments said something about them happy about a lawyer getting 40 years for setting a police van on fire with a Molotov cocktail with no one in it. That's also unreasonable. Kyle Rittenhouse getting life in prison for that situation would be a miscarriage of justice. 40 years for vandalism is also a miscarriage of justice. Just saying.
What would be reasonable?
For arson, you're
let's say
1 to 5. What is arson with no bodily injury? And we're not even talking about arson for like an actual building. I don't know if the arson statutes are the same if you burn a car as opposed to like burning a building. But, you know, arsonists get what? You know, 10 years when they burn a building? Give the lawyer 5. Give the lawyer 5.
That sounds reasonable.
Pull his bar license, his admittance into the New York bar. I think that that's more fair. I think, you know, Kyle is probably going to go to juvie for 4 years and get out at 21. And I think that, you know, a lot of people think that's unfair on both sides, but, you know, he took lives, and to only get 4 years for that, I think that's kind of fair. I think a juvie stint is fair in that situation, and with the lawyer, you know, 5 years. But 40, nobody was harmed? That's ridiculous.
40 is them trying to make an example by just saying, we're just going to give you something that's worse than murder so that hopefully nobody else does it again.
Yeah. Or you could swing a terrorism charge. Act of terror. The dude was not trying to scare anybody. He was just doing dumb shit.
He was a
you know,
moron.
Like, he's not trying to, you know, make like this, you know, he's not trying to make people scared. He's just, I mean, people burn cars when a sports team wins the championship. Should they get 40 years? Like, we see that every single time a team wins a championship on a college campus or in a city where their team won, they overturn cars, they burn shit, they destroy shit. Should they get 40 fucking years when nobody was harmed? That's ridiculous. I'm sorry, can't do it. Can't do it.
Yeah, someone said Kyle's lawyer is pushing to sue the Biden campaign for defamation for the video they posted on Twitter, including Rittenhouse as a white supremacist. And I think
I think there's a chance that he might win that, because from what I saw, yeah, but the thing is, yes, you break the law, you pay the price, but we also have laws against cruel and unusual punishment. 40 years for burning a fucking old ass police van, that doesn't work. As far as defamation, I think that Rittenhouse probably has a case, because I saw a lot of love of police. I didn't see any, racist manifesto.
We can explain easily where this comes from.
And he didn't shoot any black people.
No,
so where are people coming up with that from?
This is an ugly thing. What people are doing is they're turning off their brain to some extent. So what they're saying is, okay, just basic question. If we were to talk about white supremacy, on average, are you going to show up on the pro-police side or the BLM side? If you're a hardcore white supremacist, I'm not saying that all people that are one side or the other are white supremacists, but if you are a white supremacist, you probably are more likely to be on the blue side than on the Black Lives Matter side because, branding, Black Lives Matter, white supremacy is difficult there. So, then it's easy to do this trick where you say, well, he was on this side, let's now apply the worst possible vile crap to him that may come from the extreme fringes of this side to him because it makes it easier to hate him. And this is something that I see both people doing, and it's what radicalizes people more and more. So if they had... your take on your issue with him is one that honestly I may disagree with certain elements of it, but it's not made on purpose, looking to be as inaccurate as possible, just to just fuck him. Let's just make his life as humanly miserable. Let's paint him as the biggest piece of shit. It's fair, even though we disagree. Whereas there are people that would just say, let's just pile on as much shit as we can to make him look as awful as possible. Which then gets people saying, oh yeah, I'm glad. Then you'll read comments in response to that saying, oh yeah, I'm glad he shot those people. I'm glad. I hope he shoots more. I hope he shot people like that's obviously bad, but it just encourages people to become shittier and shittier and shittier.
Yeah. And that's the thing that really bothers me. I'm a person that understands that human beings are going to make mistakes. Human beings make bad decisions every day. It doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't necessarily make them evil. Even for people who are white supremacists, if you look at the psychology of white supremacy, you're dealing with people who feel disenfranchised. You're not, the people who are the white supremacists that you see out there. They're not people who are doing well. There are people who are struggling with feeling like they're being left out of the future of America. So, when I look at the way that leftists react towards these white supremacists and they're talking all this shit, and it's like, they just say, oh, they're the demons or they're devils. And it's like, that's so intellectually lazy and dishonest to just write off another human being as simply evil because, they believe in something. Have you even asked them why they believe what they believe or why they were taught what they were taught? This shit doesn't happen in a fucking vacuum. People oh, well, Trayvon Martin was on top of him, so he pulled out his gun. But that lacks context. And the black people and the leftists and all this other stuff, I wouldn't say the black people, some black people. You're not looking at proper context. And, I think that, people get pushed more into that far right ideology. The more people don't listen to their concerns and say, well, you're a straight white male, so your problems don't matter. But it's like, my problems matter to me. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not as important as you are. I'm not going to say that you're more important to me, but you keep pushing them. Eventually they're going to end up in the I'm superior to you, white power. You can't just keep
someone said
disenfranchising people that way.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. It said one to blame TV said so I'm supposed to be nice to Nazis. Well, here's the thing. As not, how do I put this? As unpalatable as it is, does anybody know the name of that guy on Joe Rogan that actually converted one of the ringleaders or whatever? Not, what do they call it? Grand whatevers of the KKK into leaving? Grand Master or whatever? There's 1 2 or 3 hour podcast with that guy. And you could actually you could watch the interviews and the talks that he had with that guy from the KKK. And he was...
Yeah, Daryl Davis. Yeah.
You may like it or not, but when you come at people, there's a way to come at people where you can change them, and there's a way to come at people where you ensure that they become hardened in their viewpoints, even if that viewpoint is that the sky is red. And and this goes for anybody from virtually any viewpoint. It doesn't matter if someone vehemently disagrees with me. It doesn't matter if I'm talking to someone that thinks, I don't care if your store gets burned down because I'm pissed at everything that's going on. If I don't sit with them and listen to them and talk to them, the chances of me, of anything changing are zero. So they only go up from there if you try virtually any other strategy.
Yep. It's funny. It's a similar principle to people saying that you're such a great person because you pay a living wage to your employees, right? And your response is, don't put that on me because, what if I'm only paying them that wage because I see that as a means to an end that I want, not necessarily because morally I believe they should be paid this amount, but I'm using this tactic because I think that this tactic will work to make me more profitable long term. So I think that's a very similar thing. You may think that this person is the biggest asshole in the world, but you do know that if you shout them down and don't allow them to express themselves, that you could end up in a much worse situation than you're currently sitting in.
Point taken.
Josue, I don't think that it matters whether or not it happens fast or slow. He's knocking down untrue stereotypes of black people, and he's doing it his own way, on his own time, and it's super super effective. He's reaching the most hardcore of the hardcore.
Someone said
So
Kyle didn't
I'm
bring the
not going to get
gun.
into a pissing match about, well, it's nice that he's doing good work, but it's not happening fast enough. Nah, he's doing it in a humane, he's doing it in a good way, and hopefully people follow in his footsteps, and maybe that's what's going to get the speed going. But calling somebody a racist because they disagree with something that you said, that's not helping the cause.
Boston Bob said Kyle didn't bring the gun. Someone gave it to him when he got there. Honestly, to me, it doesn't make a difference. Like, if someone chases me because I gave someone a fire extinguisher should have helped them put out a dumpster fire, and then they try to take my weapon and I hear someone shoot in the air, but I don't care if it's a gun that was given to me, if God gave it to me, if I brought it there, I would probably shoot. And it doesn't also change the opinion that I think that him going there probably wasn't the most productive way to go about solving the situation. Like,
Absolutely.
neither of my take on that really changes because of where he got the gun from. Like, whether that gun came out of the fucking ground, it came out of the sky, he built it when he got there, I don't really care. Now,
Yeah.
let's see.
What is that? Salt Army? Is that a salt shaker?
Salt Army reporting for duty. Holy shit, that is a Salt Army.
Oh, that went right over. That went right over. That went right over my head. Oh, I get it now. Sorry, I'm sorry. I fucked your. Fucked up your joke, man. Nothing is worse than fucking up somebody's joke, man. It's funny. I'm glad that some people are talking about the different nuances. Me and Lewis, we have these weird conversations every now and again about how when we talk to people, Lewis, he talks to you guys all the time, and Lewis will say to me that he'll say one premise, and then like half the chat is calling him a bleeding heart liberal, and the other half is calling him some right wing conspiracy nut job, Trumper, and uh, and I tell him, I was like, I get the same thing too. People make a lot of assumptions about my opinions of things, especially when it comes to economics. When I say, hey, nobody in the country should be impoverished. Oh, you're a communist. Do you even know what communism is? I found out recently, because I didn't know what communism is. I found out what the actual definition of what Karl Marx and that other guy he wrote the book with on communism. I found out what the actual spirit and definition of what communism is. And it's not actually the communism that we've seen since the McCarthy era. It's not even the same thing. So most people don't even know what communism is. But when I talk to people who keep telling me we need to get rid of capitalism, then I sound like, the far right, financially, because I'm like, yo, I've got expensive tastes, Lewis is a business owner. He believes in the free market, and me and him have these conversations. But it's like It's not like I don't have expensive taste. Is that not right, Lewis?
We argue about this routinely. I have
All the
like
time.
my
But it may seem like I'm this communist leftist. My thing is, I believe that people should be selfish. I believe that people should want to aspire to have the luxuries in life. It just shouldn't come at the expense of the misery of hundreds of millions of other people. We've got to find a way to make capitalism work for the people who are most motivated to make shit happen. They should be able to enjoy the spoils of that. We just got to make sure we don't have 50, 60, 100 million homeless Americans that don't have health care. Like, can we swing away? Can we swing away where people get the bare minimum to survive without having to sell their bodies to science, and have people aspire to innovate and to flaunt their wealth? Like, I'm not like this, stop capitalism while I'm driving a Mercedes. No, let's just make sure that capitalism is not being warped so only, 20,000 people in the country can benefit from it. And so when I say that, half of the people are going to call me a communist, and the other people are going to call me some, callous capitalist. It's like, yo, there's nuance. There's a lot of room in the middle. Right, Bezakin. Be greedy after everybody has the basics. Or be greedy while we work towards everybody having the basics. I don't see what's so bad about that. Yeah, extremes are always bad. Doesn't matter if it's capitalism or communism. Exactly. Like, can we just get some fucking balance here? Also, can we get people to keep the same energy? Be consistent. Oh, I'm Dr. Evil Genius. He says, you better give us your name again, or I'll refer to you as Lewis's commie friend. Okay. Hello, comrade.
You should post a link in the chat to your channel for people who are curious. So we're up to 348 people watching between the two platforms
here.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
But I disagree with almost one thing that you said there, and I guarantee someone's going to take this.
Takes away the incentive for people to work. I think that it takes away the overhead stress that people have about just being able to exist. It takes that stress away to allow them to innovate.
It mildly takes the edge off. Like, one of the things when I was listening to Andrew, I was listening to Andrew Yang. He was talking about how a lot of the jobs for truck drivers, let's say it's $60,000 to $70,000 a year. All right, so what does that come out to after tax? After tax, $3,500 to $5,000 a month. Okay, your job's gone, but now you make $1,200, and you live in a city where your apartment is $2,000. I mean, that's not doing much for you. All that's doing is that's causing you to punch your wall rather than shoot your neighbor. Like if you're right, if you're absolutely on the edge. But
yeah, pretty much.
The one thing that I disagreed with you on, and I guarantee that someone is going to find some mealy-mouthed, weaselly way of saying I said something different than I did, was when you said there should not be anybody in the country that's impoverished. And I disagree. Like, there are members of my own family that I think should probably be in poverty. I mean, there are people on the wealthy, on the actual side of my family that has money, like not my mom and my dad, within my family tree.
You couldn't just be that lucky, right?
Yeah, no, like the people the ones, I have people in my family that their parents spent $160,000 in their college, and they had every fucking opportunity. They had a place to live that was free for themselves, that's larger than my entire apartment just for them. And at the age of over 27, they've never had a job. They've never tried to get a real job. They've never tried to volunteer anywhere. They've never tried to contribute anywhere in any way, shape, or form. He doesn't care about making his life better in any way. And if he was broke, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't think you shouldn't be broke. You probably should be. There should be the means for anybody that is not going out of their way to sabotage their life to have the means for it. But I've dealt with this as a friend. I've dealt with this as a family member. I've dealt with this as an employer and as a mentor. There are just too many times where I've met people that they genuinely want their life to suck. There's no saving you. And if you try to save them, they will drag you down with them. Outside of that individual, we shouldn't live in a society where if someone is actually working their balls off, they risk being homeless. Like, you shouldn't risk being homeless from working your balls off. And I think it was always this way. It's just back in the day, if it was different because you didn't have the whole, like minimum wage is like $12 an hour, a shitty garbage apartment is $2,800 dichotomy going on.
I think we're getting a little bit closer to meeting in the middle. Is that I think that the family member that you're talking about is not necessary for him to go all the way to the other extreme of being impoverished. I think that you can light a fire under him by making him working class or middle class, because then he would have, it wasn't like, he was working class and didn't have a job. He was upper middle class to probably closer to the upper class in terms of free room and board, free, expensive college. He's never really known problems of any kind. But I think that it's unfair to say that he should just have all the problems thrown at him and be kept under constant neurological stress to the point where his body starts creating disease because he has to keep his pedal to the metal just to be able to be able to afford his next meal or make his next rent payment. I think I think you take him down a peg. But to get a guy like that going, you don't need to go all the way to the extreme of putting him in an impoverished situation. You just take away the creature comforts and make him work for what he has. That's why you see these celebrities and these wealthy people saying that they make their kids get jobs. They don't just give them a bunch of money, and they make them earn stuff, and they make them learn things, and they make them do all those things because they understand the principle that you just expressed.
Jiff just said, I don't know how you guys make those rent payments. I don't. That's why a certain gym owner is very pissed at me right now.
How I make my rent payment? Well, we have a really good thing going on at home, and we're taking full advantage of capitalism. Let's just say that, right? I charge a good amount of money for my services because I'm good at what I do.
That's why I have
So
no
if
money
that
left
makes
to
me
pay
a
the gym
fucking
owner.
communist. Oh, actually, that does, under the original definition of communism, getting out what you put in. That's actually what real communism is. When you put in the effort and you reap the benefits of what you sow. That is actual real communism, believe it or not. But that's also one of the tenets of capitalism as well. So that's going to be a little confusing. I'm not going to pretend to be an economist, but I'm definitely taking advantage. I use my specialization of what I offer to the world, and I make sure that I'm compensated fairly for it. And we have people getting education, and my family we're getting education, building up resumes, so they can charge more for their services. And that's how we're making the rent payments over here.
What's that? Oh, thank you. Hot, hot.
Work out to communists? Yeah, you do the work and you get the gains. But the thing is that even the communists, even the communists, the communistic countries are not engaging in real communism, because when you look at it, they have the same wealth concentration at the top that we do. They just use the tenets of communism to try to keep poor people comfortable being poor. Well, in our country, they falsely use the tenets of capitalism to keep most of the people okay with being poor, while the wealth still gets concentrated at the top. If you guys would see how Chinese people, communist fucking China, how the wealthy people of communist China is just throwing money into blenders and just wasting the money. Because I mean, if you guys just knew how much they are not being oppressed by communism, your mind would be fucking blown.
Most people in New York City are poor, says King Kong.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yes, we
actually
give all
true.
of our money to rent. This is something
Yeah.
I was explaining that I don't think a lot of people understand is when people in, let's say, Indiana or South Dakota don't understand why there are so many people who are far left in New York City. When your rent for your apartment is $550 and you're getting more than what we're getting for 2,000,
Mm-hmm.
it really it is different. You know, the whole like, why do they want radical change? Why do they want political revolution? Why are they going over ideas that may not be great, the best of ideas? What's that's it.
They've
Well,
been radicalized by an unreasonable system.
you don't have, well, you know, when you go to Custer, South Dakota, something tells me that you don't have people purchasing buildings and that using leverage and then using that to increase the value of their portfolio, but then not being able to rent it out at a market rate because if they do that, it devalues their property, and then leaving it empty so that the town looks vacant. You don't have like that's a New York thing, and and it leads the people to the belief systems and the political beliefs that they have. And you know, there's a reason that that kind of stuff doesn't happen in those areas where someone with a normal job can actually afford to have an apartment that gives them a sense of dignity. And JB says, "Thank you for getting me to read Start With No." Thank you for reading it. That book's going to transform the way you negotiate with people.
You know, somebody said something in the chat that I thought was that reminded me of a concept. Can I get a one in the chat for everybody who's seen the film Siriana? I just want to kind of see. Um, I just want to kind of because if I'm going to go on this tangent, I want to see who's going to follow me on this.
Do you have the garlic and salt?
Oh my god, it's
You're right.
about to be a fucking huge spoiler alert. I don't like to talk about. I don't like to talk about media people haven't seen. Fuck, there's a lot of zeros. R.I.P. chat. I think Jerry's after your girlfriend. Okay. Neil's seen the film. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna break one of my own personal rules. So apologies. I really recommend people watching the film because of the psychological message that it has. Um, so tell us when to mute. Okay. I mean, the people that don't want it spoiled, you should probably mute right now. Okay. So for those who are not um, opposed to getting a spoiler, I'm gonna kind of give. It comes on the spoiler. I'm dead. All right. So Siriana is a film that for people who are watching on the outside, it's about Middle Eastern oil companies and terrorism, right? But if you dig deeper into the film, it actually shows you a series of connected events from the perspective of six or seven different people in the media, people in the government, people at the bottom of the economic totem pole. And what the film shows is how Islamic radicalization tends to happen. So it starts out with people in the Arab companies who are basically trying to find work because they're impoverished. Now, the people who lead their governments are insanely fucking wealthy, but the people at the bottom don't really have anything. The people at the top have taken the oil wealth and they've basically concentrated it among their princes and whoever the fuck that's at the top that wear the white robes and the white headdresses. So they follow a young man who is looking to work for these oil companies, but they're being assaulted and they are not being paid and they're being kicked off of job sites and everything that they go to do to try to make just a little bit of money to survive, they are met with abuse and other obstacles. When he goes to his boss, everybody is cool, but then one guy sees the kid who's been kicked and beaten by the people who are uh, kind of overseeing what's happening at these workplaces. And then he singles him out because he knows that this one particular person has been disenfranchised. Everything that he's tried to do to make an honest living, he's been kept from being able to do that. So when he goes to the mosque, somebody pulls him to the side and they say, oh, we got these other people. Like, yeah, we have people that practice true Islam here, but we've got these other people. And then he starts feeding him, these doctrines that are not really found in the Quran. And he's trying to twist some of the doctrines that are in the Quran to make him believe that, if he does this, then he can make a difference and, he'll get all these virgins. And then you see the slow build towards him being radicalized. And it ends with him suicide bombing some sort of ship or whatever. And it just shows you how it is never a zero sum game. If you don't like right wingers because they're wearing a robe and a hood, well, they didn't start out like that. Like nobody wakes up in the morning and say, you know what? I want to be hateful. No black person gets up and say, you know what? Today is a good day to express hatred for white people. It ain't really like that. It is definitely more nuanced than that. And that's why listening to each other and understanding the individual struggles that each person has, even if you are disenfranchised, understand the difficulties that other people are having in their life. And then you'll find that there are more similarities between you than there are actual differences. We won't have the political climate that we have where people are pressing the nuclear button all over social media and in the streets. I really highly recommend seeing that film and really paying attention because every scene is significant. Every single scene is 100% significant.
I've never seen that movie. I'll check it out.
What up, Andre Luke? Siriana, I'm going to type it in the chat. I mainly went to go see that movie because I'm a big Matt Damon fan, and I also like George Clooney. But I didn't know what I was getting into when I went to watch that film. I mean, it makes me emotional thinking about it because there are so many relatable events that happen, and then when you see the film is like a political version of Final Destination. I just made that connection. I don't know how I just now made that connection, but when you the extreme, and the thing is, things that control world events, like if you look at World War I, right? We're talking about really, really bad luck happening that led to World War I, and the fallout for World War I led to World War II. I mean, you look at, like, I know some of you have probably seen the butterfly effect. I mean, the principle there is just insane. Absolutely insane.
Someone said they're afraid of watching it because they don't... Something about being afraid. It supports critical race theory. But this movie is from 2005, so...
I think that every theory should be critically examined.
This movie came out before the social justice dam broke regarding movie production. So, and honestly, if something sounds interesting, I wouldn't say don't watch it because of that. the thing that about modern day art, not modern art, that bothers me is when I feel like rather than there being a story that's being told, I feel like I'm being propagandized, and you can always
I
tell when there's a
hate
difference there.
that. I hate that so much. Do you know how much of that is in the black community? Where people say you have to go watch this because you're a black people in it or it's black made. They have this guy that dresses up like an old woman, and then everybody's like, "Oh my god, the movies, the premise for the movies are trash." But you're expecting me because I'm some mixed race guy that appears black and mostly black. I just don't don't try, like the only MCU movie that well, I refuse to watch the first Captain America movie because it looked like political propaganda. But I also didn't watch was it Captain Marvel? No, I'm not watching that shit. They went on a fucking media tour to proclaim that this movie is for basically against everybody that was born with a penis because people who are born with penises are horrible people. But you want me to spend $20 on a movie ticket so I can listen for 2 hours about how horrible I am because I was born with a penis? Fuck you. Oh man, I hate that shit. Black Panther. I actually liked the movie. I thought the movie was very well done. Um, and I like that people who acted in it. But if people tried to tell me that I had to go watch it because I'm black, fuck you. Fuck off.
It's like when people ask me if I want to go see an
Oh,
Andrea
Tyler
Bocelli
Perry.
concert.
That's what his name is. He makes shitty movies. Period. It wasn't literal about it. Support critical race theory, training people that they have inherent racism, but it was nurtured into them. But rather, I don't trust movies entirely about nurture. That's a very interesting. That's a very interesting thing because I'm of the opinion, and this is my personal opinion. My personal opinion. I don't believe that there has ever been a human being that got past um, infancy stage that isn't racist. I think that every single human being that has ever lived is racist on some level, right? Some people try to, you know, split hairs. Well, bias and racism not the same thing. Well, if your bias is based on race, it's racism. Now, does it necessarily mean it has to be a bad thing? Does it necessarily mean that you're a bad person? Absolutely not. I just think that everybody has their racist bias. I think I love that. I always said I'm not racist. I hate everybody equally. But the thing is that we look at stereotypes and we believe stereotypes that we hear about other people. Sometimes racism is favoring one race over another. But it's not like all racism is bad. It's like when people say, "Oh, you're being selfish." Well, selfishness inherently is not a bad thing. It's just that when you overdo it and you harm people with their selfishness, that's when it's a bad thing. But being selfish, looking out for your own self interest, is not an inherently bad thing. And I don't think being racially biased is an inherently bad thing. But when you use it to disenfranchise other people, now we've got enough. Now we've got a problem. So I just think that human beings we're just pre-wired to look at the changes, the differences between us, and then create a hierarchy based upon the differences. It just so happens that skin color is a difference that we place people in the hierarchies for. It's just the way it is. But I'm not going to be like, you're bad and blah blah blah. No, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous to just say, oh, you're bad and you're this and you're that. Like, you know, um, Jeremy says, isn't the problem that you're racist for learning a stereotype to be true? is the same as I don't think those things are necessarily the same unless you follow the stereotype and then you ignore when somebody doesn't fit in the stereotype.
I think that people notice culture or behavior more than race in general. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
for instance, like but this, uh, a group of people in wife beaters joking and spitting outside of a store in Louisiana. People in the Upper East Side that look like they belong in that CW show Gossip Girl. Like, same race, but like genuinely different there. Like, I don't know, comparing something like T-Pain to Thomas Sowell or something. Like, same race, but like I think people look at people have lots of stereotypes, but I think it's more than just black, white, or like
White spots
Western
to the rescue.
European, Eastern European, or anything like that. I think there's some sort of like I think people classify infinitely into smaller and smaller subgroups based on perceived behaviors, and that it's when I think it's when people stop doing that and they just have one gigantic category, what channel you watch or what skin color you are, that it gets to be completely off the rails.
I think I love that you brought that up because that reminds me of the movie Schindler's List. Now, to give you some context on my opinion of the film, um, I grew up in the very worst neighborhoods in New York City. Um, just just the worst. I grew up around a lot of black people who I perceived to be the authors of their own disenfranchisement. I didn't understand, the country's history. I just saw a bunch of people complaining about racism while, also celebrating being anti-intellectual. Um, so when I was growing up, I always heard about racism in terms of black and white. So that's all I knew. That's all I understood. And the movie Schindler's List fucked my motherfucking head up. Why did it fuck Dr. Evil's head up? Because I saw white people killing other white people. Because from my vantage point, because that came out when I was a preteen. From my vantage point, they're like, blonde hair and blue eye is like, uh, uh, what is it? Is more superior than dark eyes and brown hair. And I'm like, these are white people killing white people. Like that's all I saw. Like it's a bunch of fucking like white people killing white. Like how does that even work? And then I read this novel called The Outsiders, and then I saw the film, and I'm like, they had the greasers versus the preppies, right? And I'm like, that was another moment. I think that actually happened early. I think I was probably like 8 or 9 years old when I saw the film after reading the book. And it's like, you're all white. Like, why are you going at each other? They put each other in smaller and smaller denominations based upon the color of your hair or how much money your grandfather inherited to inherited so that your parents can inherit or whatever. Then I realized that concept of culture versus just abject racism. Like that movie, those two works of art really sowed a lot of confusion in my mind as I was coming up.
Yeah, because I don't see myself as a racist, but I definitely see myself as someone who notices patterns in people's behavior, and I definitely judge people based on the way that they choose to present themselves
Absolutely.
and how they
We're
act. And
actually both of our mics are popping.
oh, son of a, that's probably the computer's way of telling me to get some rest.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I just couldn't understand. And you know what? Media is fucking us up. Like one channel is trying to rile up one side, the other channel is trying to rile up the other side, and they're both lying. You
I
know?
think that there's a problem with the fact that the incentive structure is as such, is that you can I noticed this when it came to the news pieces. Like I did a video where I talked about what I thought was going on with the Henry Cousby case, and it got 4 to 7 million views. I did a follow up where I realized I was wrong, and it got 100,000. It's
Mm-hmm.
like and I noticed that with myself, and I felt terrible about it. But I'm thinking, you can get something wrong on a massive scale, and it almost doesn't really even seem to matter because you will get because you will, the more outrageous what you're saying is, the more people want to watch, and the more nuanced what you're saying is, people stop caring. So you could just move on the next day. And I think that the way well, I think that we're in something. I think we're in the death throes of modern media at the moment, and you're seeing that increase people's own political polarization, because like the type of viewpoints that we have here, these are not the viewpoints that you're going to see on MSNBC or Fox or CNN or anything else. They're talking to a particular group of people, and therefore that particular demographic of people. So when you're listening to viewpoints that are really go counter
Fucking
to
echo
yourself,
chamber.
it causes a sense of stress. It actually causes you stress and aggravation to hear someone speak something that takes you, because if you see the world this way and you think this is the way it is, and someone brings up evidence that's maybe it's like this, even if it's not like that, that's going to take you out of your comfort zone. It means the world is not the way you think it is. So people will genuinely reward you for keeping them within their comfort zone. Oh, you're telling me the world really is like this, so I'm not crazy. So I'm not unsafe. Because even if you think the world is crazy, if you think it's crazy in this particular way, that means that your assessment of the world is correct, which means that you are probably in a safe place. And people are willing to, give away their money, give away their livelihoods, give their time to people who will reassure them that they're correct.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I'm really mad at Jiff in the Twitch chat because he stole my thunder. Because he brought up social fucking media. Because you said that media, traditional media, is in its death throes, but I immediately disagreed in my mind because of what Jiff said. Jiff says Twitter is the same way. The algorithms that Facebook and Twitter and all of these other apps are using, Narcigram, their AI has figured out that people are more engaged when they are more upset about what's happening. So, people, if you want to sell ads on your platform and you only want there to be videos of Mr. Clinton and BlackBerry, then people are going to click the heart button and then log off. But if you say this communist or this alt-right guy, and then people start getting into these arguments, and then they're F5ing the page, and then more ads come up and more ad revenue. So they're playing this game because, again, we discussed this earlier about how neurologically speaking, we're designed or we have evolved, design, evolution, whatever you believe. But the way that we're hardwired right now is that the negative is going to have a greater impact on us than the positive as a defense mechanism towards danger. So we don't have time to pay attention to all the things that we love. We only have time to pay attention to something that we hate because neurologically speaking, it's interpreted as danger. So F5 reloads the page because they're looking for that next update, and then every time they reload the page, a new ad pops up. They've got more engagement. So they've figured out that if you pit a neighbor versus neighbor, then you can get insanely fucking wealthy doing it. So when me and Lewis have these debates about whether billionaires are evil or not, this starts to slide into the thought that some of them are ethically reprehensible because there are billionaires that are making money by innovating and making our lives better or easier or more profound or whatever. But then you have the Zuckerbergs out there who are getting filthy fucking rich by keep pressing the danger button in your brain, to keep pressing the danger button to get you to keep clicking Fox News is doing it, MSNBC is doing it, CNN is doing it. They're keeping you tuned in and watching commercial breaks by playing on how you are wired toward the negative. That's fucked up. There's no way that you can tell me that all of these entities got their wealth, doing things morally and ethically. They're leading to the destruction of the country, and they're getting massively wealthy doing it. That's fucked up. There's no way you can write it any other way, in my opinion.
They wouldn't be able to if people weren't who they were. Like, it takes me wanting to log on to Facebook and wanting to argue with people on the internet about a political topic for 2 or 4 hours in order for him to monetize it. He's giving us the means.
Devs are doing it too.
He's giving us the means to be ourselves. He's just giving us the means to amplify being ourselves. I felt good when I deleted my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram, and my LinkedIn. I only use YouTube because I use it as a tool to actually, it's a tool that I can actually use to teach people. Yeah. And it also allows long format conversation in a manner that is not, that I think at least can show some respect to the topics that I want to discuss. But like the rest, I deleted it. Mark Zuckerberg can't make money off of me because I don't want to amplify my ability to know exactly what my dad's political view is and have it jammed down my throat 6 times a day and then argue with him over it.
Right. I
don't know what my dad thinks on a lot of political things, and honestly, that was kind of a better time. When I grew up, there was this whole idea that there are certain things we don't share because we actually may get along better because of it. But I don't have a Facebook, and I'm happy that I don't have a Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg will never make money monetizing me arguing on that platform because I don't have that platform.
Word up.
The only way for him to do that is because he's giving us the tools to be more, even if the algorithm itself is amplifying people screaming at each other, people have to want to scream at each other at some level in order for that algorithm to have something to work with.
Word up. Word up. I love what Kat Seiko said in the Twitch chat. Knowledge without the ability to apply it is useless. In fact, it can be detrimental. For instance, we had this whole thing about Kyle Rittenhouse, right? And we were all going back and forth, right? People in the chat are like, well, do your research. And I'm like, no, you do your research. And then you realize that there are people who are very official sounding from, different outlets that are putting out competing information. And what does that do? That has you going up against me. And then it just comes back to the same shit, like the same divisions. It's very frustrating. Very frustrating. It's very fucking frustrating. But this is why I like talking to Lewis, This is why I like talking to Lewis, because, he and I, our octave levels will raise, but we know that we still have love for each other in the end.
Yep, that's what matters.
And, there has been things that Lewis has said, and the rage button, it hit my rage button. But I'm like, you're not evil for thinking that. It's like, this is the information that you have. This is the perspective that you have. When I talk to people who say racially insensitive or hateful things about black people, I don't call them a racist. I look at, what have they seen in their life that led to them believing that this is what it is. The same thing that Daryl Davis has done. When he talked to the KKK guy, the guy was like, yo, I've never had a drink with a black man before. And he's like, well, is it as bad as you imagined? No. You got to give the people opportunity to express themselves so that if they are misguided about what they believe, then you can actually show them why they're misguided. I don't understand. We're talking about issues, and this is the thing that I hate about modern politics, and I don't believe in politics. I feel like they do this thing. Um, they do this thing where um, um, where they just want to get um, a soundbite out there to make it this candidate versus this candidate, and nobody's talking about the fucking issues. Nobody's talking about the issues.
I listened
Everybody.
to the debate and I streamed it to some people in Discord, and I was screaming at my screen at some point like, that's not the question. That you didn't answer the question. You're not even trying to answer the question. And like, people think that this is people. I've seen a lot of people say you're stupid to others on the internet for saying you want to see Joe Rogan moderate a debate. That would actually be much more productive.
I would
like,
love it.
no,
And you know what
it's,
they did to Joe Rogan, right? You know what they did with Joe Rogan when
what?
somebody just made the suggestion that he should moderate? Look at what
What?
happened to him.
But I mean, listen, that's a good idea. Because seriously, if you when you listen to that debate, every time someone was interrupting, she would just go, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you." No, like someone needs to put you in a chokehold, you know, like. Maybe you have like, you know, a female come along from the UFC or something, so to put Kamala in the chokehold if she interrupts, because it's gonna be weird if a guy's doing it. But you know, like, no, you have your time to talk. If you talk over that, I turn your mic off. If you talk over that, then you get put in a chokehold. Like that, the average American would probably much rather have someone say, "No, excuse me, I asked you. That's not the end. You're not answering my fucking question. Answer the fucking question as it was asked." If you don't, or just say you don't want to answer it, like you need a UFC commentator to actually moderate a modern political debate. It's not a ridiculous suggestion. Because the moderator that they have is like, you know, is the sky blue or red? Well, actually, I believe genuinely in the fact that palettes of all colors particularly come from the burlap that you utilize for it. And I really think it's great to, like what? And then they just talk over for 90 seconds, and then they go, "Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you." It's like, yeah. If you think a UFC commentator that does a podcast wouldn't do a better job of moderating the debate,
Yeah, I think Joe Rogan's got a bad rap for being too easy on certain guests, depending on, you know, the person making the criticisms and their personal ideology. But there are times where he will push back on what the fuck you're saying. He'll be like, hold on.
yeah, I mean, if you were, I would rather have it here listen to a 2-hour conversation with Joe Rogan with each candidate than listen to someone try to jam out 20 issues or 20 questions that don't get answered in 30 to 90 second increments. Like, you can respond, you get 30 seconds. Okay, so we just asked about providing health care to the entire country in a radically different way than we did before. For 40 seconds, sir. Like, that's a joke. That's a joke.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think Rogan has been quoted multiple times as saying that, you know, 2 minutes gives you a soundbite, but um, gives you no nuance. You know, you can't really have a real discussion under those circumstances. You know, nobody's really going to have an in-depth understanding of what the fuck you're talking about. I'm trying to see who the fuck you responded to. I can't find Uber Bunny's.
Oh, yeah, it was someone saying what I am listening to is a far-right argument. There is nothing right or left about thinking Joe Rogan would do a better job of moderating a debate than the two clowns they had last time.
And Joe Rogan has been said that he's a liberal. Oh, it's a different chat.
Have someone moderate the debate that will A, get them to answer the question, B, steamroll you if you talk over the other person, and yeah, but also C, above all, let's like stop with this. We only have 40 or 50 minutes for this. We have a lot of time. We have the internet. There's more than one channel. You can have more than two things on one channel at the same time. This is not, 1950 with broadcasting anymore. We don't actually that doesn't make We don't need those limitations anymore. Joe could have a 4-hour conversation with Joe Biden, and then have a 4-hour conversation with Trump, then with Pence, then with Kamala, and you would actually come away with it being somewhat better educated. But that's not a debate. It's really useless. I think that entire format is completely useless. It's designed for when we were in a different time, in a different place, when you didn't have the ability to just... Like, think about, how did people vote 100 years ago? You know, it's not like they could watch television. 100 years ago, a lot of people probably didn't even have a radio. All you had is a newspaper. How did you even get a feel for what the candidates thought? You probably just
Also,
voted.
100 years ago, it was racially and sexually homogenous, the voter base. It was white men that could vote.
But how did
So
you figure out
it
who
was
you want?
definitely more simple. It was definitely simple when you talk about the issues. You know, women couldn't vote, black people couldn't vote. So, you know, you're talking to a smaller subsection of the population back then. It was easier to just say, well, I want to do this. No, I want to do the opposite. That's it. End of story. And I just think that that's another reason why we need to have a long form format for debates, because there are so many different people that they need to try to get votes from that, you know, have like a whole bunch of different wide ranging positions from where they sit.
Yeah.
I do want to answer a question from Kat Seiko. Do you also feel like the elections are always about finding the lesser of two evils? I hate that so much. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I don't even get involved in the political anything. I don't do the voting. I don't do any of that stuff. Because if you knew a woman that was being abused, would you tell her it's okay that he's slapping you because he didn't stab you? Like who is uh, uh. And why are we accepting that as the standard? Hey,
First past the
everybody's
post.
bad. Let's just choose somebody who seems a little bit less bad. Like, aren't we supposed to be like the most advanced country, the freest country, the best? You know, USA, USA. Well, and we're reduced to, you know, oh, everybody sucks. You know, let's see who panders to us more effectively. Ew, yuck. Ugh. I don't want a third option. I want 40 options, 100 options. How about
First,
that?
First past the post is a big reason that you don't get those options. First past the post is a way that you guarantee two-party rule, and you guarantee that a limitation of choices. But it also encourages people to vote for who they think will win rather than the person that they like best. And it doesn't give the person that, because everybody probably has a person they like best, but they're voting for the person they want to win. But if you had something other than first past the post, then you'd actually figure out, oh shit, everybody really actually likes this person, and they would win.
Yep.
Because one thing I noticed that's interesting is the candidates that wound up winning are none of the candidates that are the ones that were the front runners are like the ones that won were the ones that would have been the candidate that went on Joe Rogan's show. Like Joe Biden will never go on that show. Trump will never go on that show. Pence will never go on that show. Yeah, Andrew Yang will go on that show. Tulsi Gabbard would go on that show. Even Bernie Sanders would go on that show. But like the people that
that's actually pretty crazy. I didn't even link that. I didn't link that together. You're
the
absolutely
people
right.
the people who were doing the worst in the primary were the people that were willing to go on the show. The people who do the worst are the people that are actually somewhat relatable, and they don't have so much to hide, so much baggage that they would have to be handled and specifically kept away from someone that would ask them a tough question. Andrew Yang doesn't have anything in his past, or even if he did, he probably doesn't care, to where I can't go on a podcast for 2.5 hours with someone that can ask me anything in a room because I'll be trapped. Like, he doesn't have that, you know?
You didn't. Also, you noticed that they didn't have handlers sitting next to them, you know, coaching them on what they can and can't say and what they should and shouldn't say. They went there by themselves. They looked Joe Rogan directly in the face, and I liked what Andrew Yang had to say. I also liked what Tulsi Gabbard had to say, but they were too reasonable to ever have a chance. There's no way in fuck they were not just not going to happen. And the thing is, I think that, you know, Rogan would love to have Trump on there. I think that he would love to have Biden on there.
That would break the internet.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely.
That would be the most viewed. That would be the most viewed event of our generation. No sports event, no movie, no. That would be the most viewed event of our generation. Like
Mm-hmm.
Trump on Joe Rogan.
Yep.
I'd pay to see that, honestly.
Um, no, I'm not. No, I'm not paying, but I would love, I would love to see it.
I would pay to
Um,
see that as a full 3 hour fleshed out show. There's
yeah,
little in
but
media that I would pay for.
I think you're right, man. I think that if they did do that, if they really did do that, Trump, like, because you know how Rogan is, like, if you say something against gay people, he's gonna question you. If you say something against marijuana reform, he's gonna you say anything that you know, or if you hesitate in what you're about to say, he's gonna pick up on that and he's gonna pull on that string. So I
That
don't
would be an
always
interesting
agree with
show.
Rogan, but I still listen to his views anyway. Yeah, Rancid Vomit. That would be fucking crazy to have all of them on a podcast together. The only thing is, I think Alex Jones would be too obvious in trying to jerk off Trump. I could be wrong on that, but um, that's just my perception.
I think when you were talking about what happened to Rogan after someone made a suggestion of him moderating debates and everybody ripped him apart. I don't like that people also ripped him apart for just making a lot of the basic common sense just some of the basic common sense stuff that he noticed. Like when he said, there's something going on up there with Biden. Like, what's up with that? Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
you can think that he's the lesser of two evils. You can even be voting for him because you think that his policies would be better, while simultaneously recognizing that's got to be that's either dementia or you're drunk up there when
Yep.
you say some of the things that you say.
Yep. And the thing is, like, for some of the people that are in the chat right now, maybe one or two of them know that I also do a podcast, but the podcast is on a democratic political platform. So I say that as a disclaimer because I'm not a political guy, but my voice gets to be heard on this platform, so I took the opportunity. But when we do the show, um, we still, even though we're on that platform, we still look at Biden and it's just kind of like, yo, what is up with that dude? Like just looking at somebody and saying that they look like they've lost a step cognitively. How does that make you a bad person for making an observation? Like
Well,
I
yeah,
don't,
there was this one particular. I
I don't get
remember
it.
there was one speech that he gave in the mid '80s that led to us putting sanctions on apartheid South Africa, and it was really good. I thought it was an impassioned speech. It changed U.S. policy for, I think, in a more moral direction, and the policy got done what it was trying to get done, and he spoke very well, very eloquently. Like, no, you can't put that next to him now and say that that's the same person.
Right.
I mean,
I
if any,
agree.
and there's this idea that if you point it out, shut up, we're trying to get him to win, shut up, he's going against the fascists, shut up, you can't say anything. I mean, if anything, the fact that, like, I don't, when you try to hide it, it makes it worse. Like, I know people that are voting for him because they think he has dementia. They think he's going to fuck up less stuff because he'll just go along with what people around him say.
I was thinking about what you just said and the concept of that. And I really feel like we're being trolled by the ruling class. I feel like uh, every election cycle, they trot out either incredibly unintelligent people or socially polarizing people, and they just keep trying to up the ante on who they can put out there to cause the most divisive reaction from the American people. And it feels like they're insulting all of our intelligences when it's clear that Biden is missing he's slow a couple of steps, from where he used to be, wherever that was. His record is, decidedly, his record, 94 crime bill, right? Like, you want to call somebody a white supremacist, but you wrote you had a Hamden in 1994 crime bill, right? It feels like they're spitting in all of our faces with the candidates that they're putting out there, because they're just like, well, if we go even more ridiculous than the last, we'll see how the American people are going to react to that. Are they finally going to stand up for themselves and say, fuck this shit? Or are they just going to, well, let me go, vote for the lesser evil? We're going to keep pushing the envelope on how horrible the candidates could be and see what you do. That's what it feels like at this point.
I think people want it. I think him and the dementia and the old grandpa-ish feeling that he puts off represents this kind of return to normalcy campaign where instead of things being heated and everything, it's just going to be like dealing with your grandpa who has dementia. It's not that bad, right? I'm not threatening. I'm not going to, and I think that that's part of what people probably were voting for, was just this idea that everything is going to go back to normal and I'll feel slightly less stressed when I look at the news every day, and I probably won't be arguing with my family members on Facebook anymore. And I thought that was part of the sales pitch.
Yes, I've seen when we did yesterday's show, and again, disclaimer, somebody up in the comments said Dr. Evil riding Lewis's coattails. It's interesting that you say that. I just want to address that. When we thought up this idea, did I not express a discomfort at the prospect of basically leeching from your viewer base to do the show with you?
Yep.
I think that was the very first thing I said. Like, I didn't want to get popular because of Lewis. Like, I'm probably still going to be irrelevant. My YouTube channel, I play a 4-year-old Call of Duty game that very few people care about. I'm not suddenly gonna, become a YouTube star from this.
At least you play it well, which is more than I can say for me playing Dota.
Oh yeah, I'm a fucking crybaby, fucking sweaty tryhard that rages almost every time I get killed, right? But I just, I recognize how it can look to you guys, like, oh, he's on the channel, so people will subscribe to his channel.
That stuff doesn't really matter. It's kind of like when I read on Reddit when people say, well, you hate on Apple because that's how you make money. And I just I read that statement, and it's, I have a video about what I disliked about Apple's practices with ICE in 2013. That was 2 years before I turned on monetization. I already had a store in New York City, which is a fucking expensive. I already had 3 or 4 full-time employees that needed to pay rent in New York City, which was also expensive. But a non-monetized YouTube channel that has 100 subscribers, that I'm recording a video using a $200 cell phone that I duct taped to the wall section over here that I was using because I didn't have a tripod. That is how I make my money. It's like you're never actually going to change that person's mind. So I've tried to stop reading that stuff because it doesn't work. It really doesn't. I don't mind if someone hates or disagrees with everything I say. It's just when they start challenging why I'm saying it. You said this because, or you believe you're doing this because. And honestly, when I read those comments, it started changing how I look at politicians. Because I was looking at politicians myself and saying, they're just doing this because they want X. They're doing that because they want Y. Rather than, well, let me engage with what it is you're pushing for and where I disagree rather than doing that. Because I was doing to other people what people were doing to me, and I didn't realize it until people started doing it to me. That's kind of very annoying. But there's really no way to respond to it, and there's no point to, because you're never going to change that person's mind.
Yeah, but I think the reason why I responded to that is because he was saying something that I had already thought myself. So some people will look at that and say, oh, they would be upset, oh, why are you accusing me of riding Lewis's coattails? But that's a fear I already had.
Sonny said, I make a video about Lewis daily with no shame.
Shame, yeah, I saw that. I saw that one.
I was talking with him about, Sonny has the Tesla Model X. And yeah, Sonny, the interior of the Model X is a 100K car. Is a steaming pile of shit. He grabbed the dashboard and did this, and I swear, Sonny, no offense, I love you, Sonny. A dude who has not lifted weights a day in his life for over 30 fucking years, and I thought he was gonna rip the dashboard off of the car. It was so pathetic.
Yeah, that's one of the things that. But the thing is, I also believe that is actually a feather in the cap of Tesla, because if you look at how high their stock value is and how they're leading innovation, they have a glaring weakness, and that's initial quality, right? But as they make more cars, they're going to get better at initial quality.
It's that American engineering.
So if they're as good as they are with what they're doing, they will be, catapulted once they fix the issues, the quality control issues with their vehicles. So I think that the stock value is going to go even higher. But I gotta ask the chat.
I like.
Who do you think put together their vehicle better? Tesla or Lewis?
Mine was a value vehicle. No, I was asking Sonny because he was showing me the dashboard and all the controls, and there was a temperature, and I said, "Oh, it shows you battery temperature," and he goes, "No," and I said, "Motor temperature," and he goes, "No," and I said, "What is that?" He goes, "That's the outside temperature." I said, "I want to know the motor and the battery temperature. Where do you see that?" And he said, "They don't show you that." And I said, "Why not? I want to see that." And he's like, "Listen, this isn't like your piece of shit that you put together. You don't have to monitor a temperature and go slower so you don't blow up. That's only with a piece of shit that you put together from unit pack power."
The only thing that I thought was missing on the bike is that I thought that the rear lights should have been bigger. I thought that the brake lights could have been bigger, and they could have been brighter, because like the how you had them set on there was so much space for, like an automotive level, like an automotive class, like rear light, so that when you press the brakes, there is no mistaking. I'm slowing down in this bicycle. Get off my ass. But you thought that the battery was of a certain quality level, and you trusted them. I don't think that's really your fault. I just wish that you would have had bigger taillights.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that for the next one. I am going to end the stream because I'm starting to get tired, and I have a 5-hour pre-licensing Zoom course I have to take tomorrow.
Oh yeah, good luck with that.
When did you take that? Did you have to take that when you got your license back in?
I've taken the 5-hour course multiple times, because you need to do that multiple times to keep the 10% off the auto insurance discount.
I'll just keep paying the auto insurance. Fuck that.
But the thing is that, like, if you know what you're doing, you can kind of just fuck off, and then when it comes time to do the quiz, you already know what you're doing, so you just do the fucking quiz.
That's gonna, I get to take that joy of a test tomorrow. That's gonna suck.
Yeah. So, the thing is, like, chat, whether or not you subscribe, I'm good with it. I just love having the involvement. Even if we disagree, we could disagree vehemently. Like, I don't think any less of you. I'm actually excited to be able to interact with you, because, I'm irrelevant. I do a gaming channel playing an outdated game that nobody, I have loyal viewers, but I have a very small group of loyal viewers. So, when I do the podcast on other platform, we're trying to build our audience. I have to warn you that it leads more toward the left. So if you don't want to hear that shit, don't watch. I try to be. I figure myself to be a very rational person who understands the power of emotions and the importance of emotions within discourse. But I'm a pretty rational person. I like to look at the facts of anything that's there, and I'm willing to debate them with you. And I'm not going to call you names because you don't agree with me. I just hope that we'd be able to continue to have these kinds of discussions, because there are going to be more opportunities, and Me and Lewis have been talking about doing things like this more often, so we're not on here for 4 hours.
Yeah. I will see you all later.
Thanks everybody. Thanks for watching. I appreciate all of you.
Yeah, that's going to be the catchphrase for this. I'm too tired to give my catchphrase.
Oh, and as always, I hope you learned something.
I can only say that when my kitty is next to me.